Now broadcasting from the Next Gen Conservative Studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report with Sam Whitfield.
Well, we've got a full house tonight, folks, for the final show of 2023. Welcome to the Whitfield Report.
That's right. There's going to be no shows after this, and we don't just mean the Whitfield Report. Anything going on after tonight, you are hereby directed to ignore, because this is the last show of the year.
Yeah, that's right. It may unironically be the last show of the year because like people tend to just like phone it in, like
clip show.
Yeah,
hey guys, I'm gonna react to the best clips of the year.
Or it's just here's one question I do have, Max, that I'm curious about. When people do Let's Plays, like, live, is that, and they just play games with like a camera on them, is that really a show? Or I
think Let's Play is its own genre. I usually say a stream. I know the TikTok people, they call it alive, and I want to like rip my own hair out every time I hear that.
Well, I mean, I want to hear
live. See, live is not a noun. So
yeah,
it's a stream, and we did it first. And as a guy that got in the ground floor of streaming, I was streaming on like Shoutcast in the early 2000s. I'm pretty sure we get to name the shit that we fucking developed, and it's not alive.
Hey guys, I just got here. Like, is your live on, Sam?
Yeah, our live is on.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So tonight, joining us, we have a very special guest who I don't want to really.
Hey, let's not build Smuley up too much. He's here all the time.
Well, Smuley is a very close friend, but just to give you some hints, this is a guy who I've known since he's basically my childhood best friend. Some of you will know who this is if you guys have watched the show before.
Is it Gimli from Lord of the Rings?
No, but I appreciate that reference. So anyway, I
was so close.
He was supposed to join us, but he was supposed to join us at the top of the show, but he just texted me like 5 minutes ago saying he's going to need 25 minutes. Typical. He works for Congress, so he runs
sometimes the poop break has to be a little extended. I got you.
I mean, even though he's been off with family for Christmas vacation or whatever, but
I mean, you need the poop break even more then.
That is actually true.
It is true. Between the food and just the people, a few minutes alone.
Yeah, well, and when you
care, ladies and gentlemen,
and when you grow up in an Irish, when you grow up in a family full of Irish, as my friend did, you can probably relate to my friend better than I can in this
lots
respect.
Of potatoes means lots of poop.
well, yeah, and then let's face it.
I gotta let the audience in on the secret here. Is like I'm going the lowest route possible just to get the reaction out of my wife. So poop jokes it is.
I wish
nothing but highbrow comedy here on the Whitfield Report, as always.
I wish that like we had a camera for like all the. No, it's even better because I can even without a camera I can see the eye rolls coming.
There was eye rolls just before you said that for sure.
Yeah. And
now there's a full face palm because she heard that. So yeah, it's fun.
It,
It keeps me entertained. Having a live audience is very reactive, and also the jokes that bomb with my live audience, I know are gonna go over with the on live audience, or what is it? How would it take? What would the TikToker say their audience is for? Their live, the live, or alive, or on live?
On their live.
On their live, yeah. The all you out there on our live. Oh my God! Shout out.
real quick, shout out to everyone in the chat. Evil Eric.
Everyone on our live, yeah.
Says I'm gay. No surprise there.
Based.
Eric. MAGA News Network says Sam is a globalist and can walk. Sully Kelly says poop, and then or something like that. Well,
hey, not everybody in the audience has the same taste, I guess. You know.
Yeah, I mean,
he likes his poop.
I guess
this is the topic to open with when you have a congressional staffer on, right? Is shit, because that's 90% of what fucking goes on down in DC, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm also gonna have to ask my friend, like, how long are
specifically eating shit? That sounds about like what they do up there. We're just making him comfortable. He's gonna be listening. He's gonna be like, I ain't coming on, Sam.
yeah, he's probably already tuned in, and he's probably like,
I don't even mean him.
Weirdo.
Like, you just have to figure how much, like, as a staff, I'm being serious now, right? As a staffer, it really is probably tons and tons of shit flinging everywhere, in the sense of just everything that's not the politician's fault is going to be the staffer's responsibility and fault, is what I imagine to be the case, right?
Oh, yeah.
And job, and, you know, it's, I've known some congressional staffers. I guess that's not the most glamorous job, but it is, you know, kind of how the whole deck of cards rolls around, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing too, right? Is like you'll get angry people who call in to like the representatives, and they never actually talk to the representative. They always talk to like either some, you know, communications guy, which is what my friend is, or they talk to some poor college intern, you know, who's just.
And you got to remember that these people are often like angry boomers that are very low information, and somebody somewhere got to them a story that made them angry enough to call their congressman. And then you pick up the phone because you work there, and it's like, I heard that you all are going to take my Social Security away, and I just want you to know that you're going to rot in hell. And you're like, yes, ma'am, we're not taking your Social Security away.
My
job.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything for my friend. I mean, I've heard some wild stories that like I can't tell.
I'm going with the lowest level for comedy's sake, but also throw in the mix fucking threats constantly. All of these people get tons of fucking threats, all of them.
Well, all of them at one point or another get like phone calls too that they've like seen extraterrestrials or aliens
Bigfoot's in my backyard. You ever go to like town meetings or watch town meeting streams and just see like there's always one of those guys. There was a guy years ago in a town I used to live in who was very famous locally because he tried to change his name to Jesus Christ. And he would go to he'd go, well, there's a lot of those. You say, oh yeah, no, there's like thousands and thousands of those guys, right? That want to be Jesus Christ. But this guy in particular was also, he would go to all like the town meetings. You say, oh yeah, he wouldn't be famous outside of here, but it's an archetype of a guy. That's why you say, oh yeah, because there's one everywhere, right? The schizos, and they got too much time on their hands, and they read like Weekly World News or something. And you know,
One
they're
of my
convinced
favorite-
that the alien impregnated their butt. And you
One of
have
my-
to talk to you're a staffer now answering the phone. You got to talk to them and you have to treat them with respect.
One of my
You
favorite
can't
stories.
just be like, you're a fucking crazy retard. Get off the phone. You got to be like, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry that the alien impregnated your butt. There's nothing I could really do about that.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you do? What do you say? You know, these are the
No,
thoughts that rattle around Max's brain, you know.
One of my favorite stories is it wasn't even from here in the US, but there was like a town, I think it was like in Finland or something, because of course it is, where some guy ran as like mayor of a town as like Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Unironically.
No, in London
and won.
they have a lot of like candidates like that run as jokes. I remember me and Smuley got introduced to this concept from like an old friend because we were watching an actual election because of Brexit, and we didn't know that joke candidates in England they take very seriously, which is ironic, I know, but it's true. They had joke candidates winning. And the guy in the Darth Vader thing you might be referring to, he didn't win, but he was a candidate against oh my god, the prime minister, the retarded one.
The Tony Blair?
No, the new one that was retarded.
Oh.
They elected him to do Brexit and he's like really dumb and I can't remember his name.
Oh, Boris Johnson.
Yeah. Boris Johnson is like, my favorite thing about Boris Johnson is Brits are great because they're like, ha, he's like a retarded man. We should put him in charge.
Well,
like, they were all laughing at him and making fun of how stupid he was. And they were like, oh, this guy's very dumb. We should make him run the whole country.
Well, the thing that I love is like over here, like a lot of Americans were saying that like Boris Johnson is the British Trump, and it's like
I actually
go ahead.
That's the only comparison.
I will actually back that up to a degree. Like he is their unique manifestation of what like works for them. He literally did like, I'm going to put on a silly hat and say something off-putting, and then I'm going to zip line and it's going to look silly. And so they won't, be able to criticize me. He is uniquely British in that way, like Max was saying. And so like, I think
you could totally picture him doing a Monty Python bit in drag.
Yes.
Now, see, that would be funny. And
he does stuff equally stupid though. What did you see? There was one of him like zip lining, and he's in like a full safety harness, looking like a big baby, and like he's very like for physical slapstick comedy. He might be the best world leader of our time for that. It's either him or George W. Bush. They're very close. And they both have that kind of same vibe of being like mildly retarded, but they're actually pretty smart guys in most ways. They're just come off as mildly retarded. And I think they both lean into it too. You know who doesn't lean into being retarded? John Fetterman.
John Fetterman actually like...
I know what you're going to say, and that's why I say he doesn't lean into fully being retarded, because he actually is mentally retarded, and he still makes rational decisions sometimes when presented with proper information. Imagine that. How many people in Congress can you say that about? Not very many.
Barely.
I want to apologize now to Smuley, who has been a supporter of Fetterman from the beginning. And I now have to say that I see what he was going for there. And it was actually brilliant.
John Fetterman.
Working class retard is a better senator than almost anybody you could put in there. Who'da thunk? Schmooly.
I thought it. It was obvious. I mean, part of it was that it was just so funny. So it was God's will. So I
True.
said, yeah, he's gonna win, right? So that was fun. B, because conservatives had this like retarded blind spot where they're like, I think that the shifty guy that no one trusts is gonna win because Fetterman said a bunch of words that were incoherent.
We do have to point out that his opponent was literally standing on a podium with a black top hat saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, step up and buy my snake oil."
Yeah. I mean, really, Dr. Oz. Oh, he's a great one. I mean, the other thing is that like it was also funny watching conservatives bend over backwards to explain to me, what they actually liked about Oz.
Yeah, he's he's been
can
in the
speak.
front of the cameras for a very long time.
Well,
it's retarded.
like-
Self-evidently dumb, self-evidently the wrong candidate, and then once again, Fetterman coming from the place that
then
he
came
comes.
a sweat-suited stroke victim to represent the everyman, and just like a fucking movie out of Hollywood, the retarded guy comes in and he's just magically powered and takes over. Who knew?
Well, and to kind of let the mask drop a little bit, like Fetterman is the kind of Democrat that would be likable in a place like him. If you kind of know his track record,
Yeah,
he's
a union guy.
Well, he was a mayor,
Yeah,
right? And
but,
the criticism,
he's pro-union, and he portrays himself as like
yes,
a peer of the union guys. Yeah, that's what I should say.
but like
hold on.
He was a
when
steel worker originally.
when he was mayor, he kind of just unilaterally did things himself with his buddies and his NGOs. It sort of like got the things that he wanted done, built parks and stuff. The town fell apart.
He was actually a very effective advocate for his causes in the day,
Yes.
except that once it implemented, they made everything worse. But just ignore that for a second. If you care about getting policy passed, he was actually really good at it pre-stroke.
Yeah, but a lot of what he did was like just bypass shit and build it yourself. Just bought the land with the money he had because he comes from money. He has a large network of people. He's in the NGO
He has a
world.
similar mentality to Buddy Cianci. I don't know if anybody's familiar with, but
Yeah.
he was the mayor of Providence who worked with the mafia openly. He told everybody this. He says, these are the only people who can get these fucking streets clean anyway.
Yeah.
And they put him in jail. Hold on. I want to finish the Buddy Cianci story because I think it's fucking important. They put him in jail for corruption, right? The prosecutors and shit, because he went around everything and he used the mob to do it. Guess what fucking happened? He got out of jail. He got reelected mayor.
Yep. Yeah, there was actually an entire
Results
podcast.
matter.
There was actually an entire podcast about that called Crime Town. That's actually worth
Sure, but
listening
I
to.
just lived here. I used to have a Free Buddy t-shirt, actually.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately. Hashtag Free Buddy Cianci on a t-shirt.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
And yes, he was
joining
a
us
Democrat,
now-
and I don't give a fuck. You can hate on me for it. Buddy Cianci was a local Democrat, and they're usually not as bad.
yeah.
And
Anyway,
hey, he wore his
joining us
corruption
now
out in the open with.
is my dear friend returning to the program after a long while, Mr. Luke Nickless. How you doing, sir?
I'm well. How's it going, gents? Who do we have
Pretty
on
good.
here?
So this is my co-host, Max, and then we have Smuley here.
Hey, Max. Hey, Shmuley. How are we doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing quite well.
Good. I'm calling from the beautiful state of Colorado, where we've just learned some news that instead of running for Congressional District 3, the illustrious Lauren Boebert will be running for CD4, where Ken Buck once represented.
Well,
Which is quite the change-up. I mean, Lauren Boebert was certain to lose in CD3 against a Democrat city councilman from Aspen, Adam Frisch, and now she's almost sure to win in
That
a
would
new
be a
congressional
devastating
district.
loss. I just want to point out that would be a devastating loss. I've actually been a big fan of her in Congress. So yeah, if it works out to keep her there, I'm all for it.
For sure. I think that's a reasonable position to hold. I think, she was, whatever you may think of her, she won that district by less than 500 votes in 2022.
Very close.
I mean, it was very close. I mean, it would, Colorado has a law that you have to do a recount if it's under, I think, 1,200, if it's within that margin. It might be even less than that. And they activated that provision of law, and they had to do a recount, and it was like less than 500. I mean, it was right there. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it looks like Lauren Boebert's going to be the successor of Ken Buck in Congressional District 4 here in Colorado, which is interesting. I mean, she's coming into that race with like $1.4 million in the bank, and the closest primary candidate might have $100,000, Yeah, I mean, and she's got national name recognition.
This is actually what I was saying. The nitty gritty of politics, that a lot of people get lost in like the meta stuff, right? And the news cycle. But like, and this is why I kind of stepped away from dealing with like even local electoral politics in like, being involved in it in any way or volunteering for the most part, is because it's a grind. It's an actual job and a grind, and it will wear you down. And we were talking about like staffers who just take calls before you came on. And so I figure we might ask if you have.
Oh God!
Because I was pointing out there's always the guy that's got abducted by aliens and they put something.
Bro, those are the trenches. Those are the trenches right there. You cannot be a policy wonk or this is my opinion. I don't think you should ever be a public servant at the federal or state level if you have not made several hours of phone calls with actual people. You know what I'm saying? Listen to their concerns, took notes on them, wrote them a letter back, called them back, gave them to the member of Congress or the member of House or wherever you are, whatever level of government,
and especially not one,
and help them. And actually, and it doesn't even matter at that point.
Because
if you're coming from the elected side, you have a duty to serve.
They're your constituents.
Yes.
Again, these are things I feel get lost on people. I used to do a lot.
But there's fucking crazies. You're totally right. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
There is the guy who's like, these aliens, and maybe there were. I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty open to the discussion about aliens, but like,
he had an experience, some
like,
kind that he's trying to tell you about, and maybe it was only in his head.
Bro,
And
we've had people call us from.
Rude to him, you know what I'm
no,
saying?
you cannot. You cannot. Like, but we have had people call us with, death threats, and
I said that too. I said, like tons of those.
Trying to be sexual with you on the phone or with one of your interns, or just outright like they're calling from another district. They're a California liberal, or they're a West Virginian deep conservative prepper, or
your candidate said this thing, and I'm
and it's like, sir, do you need a passport expedited? You know what I'm saying? How can do you need to get connected to the VA? Like how can we serve you? And of course, if you just have an opinion, like if you train your interns right, they should be passing that up to the congressman, up to the member,
Yeah, we had a lot of people call today about this issue. Thought you should know. Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what you got to do. Yeah. Yeah.
I did a little bit of that with the Libertarian Party on a smaller scale, and that's kind of why I feel connected, I guess, to the small scale of it.
Love that.
But they kicked me out actually for going to a protest, which is the most unlibertarian thing I've ever heard. I said to the head of the Mass LP, you understand that I wouldn't get kicked out of the Democrat or Republican Party no matter what I went to.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It was like, you understand that.
Well, potentially.
Like to sign yourself as a registered Republican. They're not going to say, "Oh, you went to this march. Get out of here."
No, right, exactly.
But
yeah, that's true.
Did that to me. the supposedly most, freedom-oriented party.
You're telling me they excommunicated you from registering as a libertarian?
Anybody that, well, they said I shouldn't, but they can't stop
Okay,
me.
yeah, there's no, yeah,
And it's
but
like,
I
the
get what you're
Republicans
saying.
wouldn't do
Yeah.
that. They would be
No.
like, yes, we would love to have another R registered in your district. Thank you. We don't care what number on a piece of paper.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh.
and
Yeah,
that-
we can
yeah,
think
and
of
there's
extreme
still-
examples on both sides of that,
I don't want to like spend too much time crapping on them, but it's like so unprofessionally run, the Libertarian Party, and I think that is actually their biggest problem. Is that anybody that walks in the door, they want to give a position of power to. Like, oh, you walked in today, you're the treasurer. Like, wait, what?
Are you sure about that? Am I a worthy candidate? Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah,
some states
yeah.
are better than others, but I am speaking of a couple of states that I've dealt with. And as soon as I left, because I was just kind of like, I was politically homeless, I guess you could say, but I've always leaned on the conservative side of things.
Sure.
And, Trump kind of brought me into the Republican thing, but I've always kind of leaned, I liked Ron Paul, obviously. I'm not going to not. And that was the thing. Why would I vote for the Libertarian when Ron Paul's running?
Yeah.
That
I mean,
didn't make any sense. And they don't
right,
like that.
yeah,
They don't like
yeah.
that. Look, you're the small fish, and you're actually just supposed to kind of be a vanguard. Right?
Do you remember Justin Amash?
Yeah.
Sam,
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
you do some work for Justin Amash or something like that?
Yeah, I did. I did work for Justin Amash when I was with the college, when I was with the Young Americans for Liberty. So, and I actually met Ron Paul, but then I basically got dismissed from Yale because
You met
basically
Ron, the senior Paul? Ron
Yeah,
or
I mean,
Rand?
No, I saw Ron Paul speak and I
Oh,
shook
that's
his
cool.
hand.
That's pretty cool.
I didn't even know that, Sam.
Yeah, I that was like, I think that
Sam.
was 2018.
Did you give him a standing ovation?
Oh my god.
I mean, I would have, but I wasn't able to. The funny thing is I drove down with my buddies to Memphis for that event, and it was a fun road trip. But Ron Paul came out, and he's in his 90s. Right?
I was gonna say he is an old man nowadays. Yeah.
And
You gotta take what you get and take it in, because
Right. Yep.
he won't be here forever.
And all these like young 20-something, young men were just screaming at the top of their lungs, cheering his name like Mick Jagger had showed up or something. And you could just see that like Ron was just like affected by like the noise level. Like you could hear him you could just see him be like, "Ow, this is too loud. I don't want to be here." Right?
Yeah, they forget. Not only is he old, but he's kind of a nerd, right? And he's used to quiet studies, and the Senate chambers isn't as loud as you might imagine. There's only like 110 people in there.
I mean, to be fair, Kennedy was also there, so I think some of the guys were also hyped up after seeing her.
Oh man,
but
energy's great. I'm just saying, Ron's got on in years, and maybe you give him a little space.
Yeah, but also like I don't think Ron Paul knows like what a rock star he is to some people either.
Not really, no.
Which is kind of endearing.
I think it's endearing, but it's kind of hard for him to fathom,
right?
That they look at him in a fandom way, because that's not how he sees the world.
Yeah.
When I shook his hand, I just said hi, thanks for being here. Like I didn't take up too much of his time. But
how do you think his son has done in filling? I mean, they're not the same ilk necessarily, but they are similar.
I've been.
What do you think about Rand?
Rand, I was split on from the beginning for myself, but especially because he did endorse Mitt Romney over his father, that kind of hurt. As a guy that was working on the campaign at the time, that kind of hurt. It's like, that's your dad. I get why he
Yeah.
did it, but I held a grudge for a while. But I'll say this:
Oh,
Rand has
wow, that was some good. I forgot about that. Wow.
he's really redeemed himself in my eyes from that since then to a large degree. And
Well,
some of that is because his style being different from his dad is that he's kind of he's more on the politic schmoozing side, I guess you could say. He's more on the deal making side.
And he is he's a Republican. He's not a libertarian.
Yeah, that goes a long way too.
Yeah.
the one thing I've always said about
Maybe. Yeah.
about
I mean, it
about
does, yeah.
Rand, the thing I've said about Rand, Luke, and I know you're not a fan of Trump, but like I've said, I don't know if I've told you this, but Rand is like Trump, but without like the verbal tics and whatnot.
I feel like Trump helped Rand find kind of his voice, is what I would say, which is not Trump's voice at all, because he goes against him on some things. But certainly Rand in the post-Trump era kind of carries himself differently with much more confidence.
I don't know. I can't speak too much about what's going on in the Senate or I mean, I know a little bit about Rand, and I have family that works for Rand, but
I'm just
I don't
speaking
know
from
enough
what I
about him,
perceive
dude.
from public
Yeah,
speaking.
I think
Yeah.
I think that's totally fair. Yeah. I mean,
and also he's been through personal hardships as well. He got
yeah,
attacked
yeah.
by that guy and
His fucking neighbor, dude.
yeah.
That was a bad deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like all of that has shaped him into somebody that I would be okay voting for something, whatever. I can't because he's not running in my area, but
Sure, he's he's a budget hawk. I know he's definitely a
Yeah.
budget hawk. He's introduced like 1% cut bill every year.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like everything should just be cut by, it's like the penny plan or, the 1% plan or something like that. And it's like a cut every year in all of our programs across the board, mandatory discretionary spending.
He stood his ground on the unlimited spending 9/11 bill, which however you come down on that, you have to respect that he stood his ground on the budget issue of it and didn't waver and represented that perspective, because that's a lot of unlimited spending is a scary idea to a lot of fiscally see.
Yeah,
you
he's a
might think
fiscal
by what
hawk
I've
and
said
definitely
that
a
I'm
conservative.
But
Yeah.
I got into politics when I was a kid through Ross Perot, and I'm a big Pat Buchanan guy, right? So the budget stuff is huge for me.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
him standing like that and saying, look, these people obviously need help, but they cannot possibly need unlimited money forever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with that. There's, 1,000 different programs that could be reformed to save money. I mean, part of it is, it's not like, I think a lot of these, like, I think Ross Perot came at it, and I think Rand is coming at it. And this is just from a budget perspective. And maybe a lot of what they're saying is campaign rhetoric. It's not actually what they would say behind closed doors,
Right.
Like when you're down in the nitty gritty and you're looking at US code and you're looking at, what reports are required, how do we cut money, how do we modernize and streamline programs with reforms that keep the integrity of the government intact, but save us money and at the same time kind of shrink the government, It's a difficult thing because every government program has a constituency and they know that, you know,
of course.
like that's
being built in because it's usually the people that work.
Right. Like what I'm getting, my point here is that like cutting the budget, cutting government spending is a way more nuanced topic that, I mean, we need to be talking about, it's not just 1% cuts across the board. It doesn't work like that. I mean, it wouldn't be a good thing. It wouldn't be the nuanced scalpel precision or actual thoughtful reform.
I'm not speaking for Rand here, but I think with some of this, I think what he's trying to do is just bring it into the conversation, much like his dad did with a lot of issues, right?
For sure. And that's why I'm saying I think it's a rhetorical flavor, or flair. Like I don't think that's how Rand is behind closed doors.
as a Senate goes, if I'm looking to like leadership on the right, and trying to get something passed, he wouldn't be the first name that I use. But if we're talking
Sure.
about standing your ground on an issue, he's definitely the first one.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
and
one thing.
that's his selling
And
point,
and
right?
even if I disagree with the issue, I still acknowledge that he would stand his
For
ground.
sure. Yeah.
Well-
yeah. I think that's fair. Yeah.
Well, one thing that even like a lot of modern Democrats I know, and granted I'm in Florida, so like even a lot of the Democrats here are like more conservative-ish. But one thing that like even some of the Democrats admit that like Ron Paul was right about is like we need term limits for Congress. Like, you know,
No,
and
that is the most erroneous policy that could ever be enacted in our government.
what makes you say
Bro,
that?
term limits in Colorado have effectively given control of our state to the lobby corps.
Yeah, because they just pass it around.
Yes,
Like-
why would you limit an American's freedom to vote for someone they believe has done a good job? Why shouldn't that person, who
Well,
learns all about I know old men
it's tough
in the
because
House
it's
and the
possible.
Senate who
It's a-
lobbyists walk in their door and they're like, I know all what you're fucking about, and I'm not going to vote the way you want me to vote on this bill because I got other fucking priorities that my people care about.
The problem is though is I see that point, but the flip side of that is then you get people like Nancy Pelosi who are just in there forever, and obviously
it might actually be preferable, and I had not considered this point before, but as soon as he said it, it makes perfect sense. The lobbyists would then take the Nancy Pelosi's position and just start passing it between themselves. You get to run this year, then you get to run this year.
And the fact of the matter is, Sam, is that, like he said, you build up a certain amount of institutional knowledge.
Dude, we're lacking it. Please preach it.
This means that if we have to get new people every 4 years, this is going to harm us much more than it's going to benefit us. And you're going to increase the power of the sort of, like he said, the unelected power brokers.
But we also need new blood.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we need new politicians every 4 years. Like, clearly, I do think we need people that have experience. But at some point, like, if you're someone like Joe Biden who has been in there since the 70s and is now 105, like.
Perhaps some kind of age limit more than term.
Yeah,
limit,
like that's
what I was gonna say. Here's the question then, Sam, and this is what somebody working in politics has to deal with. You say everybody says term limits, right? What's the limit? Specific. You have to write a law specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how many terms before you say no more? And then you have to deal with the other people are going to say maybe it's 2 more than that, and maybe it's 2 less than that, and you have to hash all that shit out. The fine details is most of what like the people are working on over there. This is what employs a lot of lawyers down there and lobbyists.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Well,
I repeat myself.
Well, I certainly that's the question. I think it is worth exploring, and I think that's what Ron Paul meant. He didn't say that like. Now the ironic part too is that like Ron Paul, he was saying that while he was,
serving and serving and serving and serving.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not blind to the fact that like he might be a bit of a hypocrite, but it is certainly worth recognizing that.
Sure, but the lobbyist cartel, that's what I'm going to call it. I'm not sure if there's a
I think
phrase
that's
for that
reasonable.
argument.
Yeah.
But the lobbyist cartel theory makes perfect sense to me and is the first counter argument I've heard to term limits that makes me say, yeah, maybe age limits or I don't know, competency requirements I think is even getting sketchy because then you have to say
I agree. We have the voter. That's what we have the voter who can determine if there's a better candidate. And we have the courts, we have impeachment, we have checks and balances already in place that, we've run a pretty good race here with the checks and balances we have. introducing
can't
some
argue
kind
with
of radical fucking reform on how long you can serve I honestly think that's radical. I really do.
Here's another factor, right? Say somebody gets elected, they're a young guy that runs. It's one of those rare cases. 18 years old, he's elected. Another guy gets elected when he's in his 50s. They get the same allowance of how many terms they can serve before you've decided they've been there too long. There's context. There's going to be, and of course, this all would end up in the courts too, as well. You have to remember that, if there's a disagreement on an issue, and of course, you could also make the case that yes, a lot of them are old, and it's not in their best interest to vote on this at all anyway.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get a vote on it, and that's been my argument from the beginning, that it's a waste of time, even though it is a very popular topic, because you're wasting a vote that's never going to happen because all the old people in Congress aren't going to vote themselves out.
So I just want to say that Luke, so you actually agree with Sam now? You think it's radical?
I think a limit on terms is a radical and not a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing.
Oh, so you meant radical is like bad,
as in bad? Yes.
Awesome.
No, not like rad, bro. Radical is in like outside the status quo, the conservative status quo that has kept this. I mean, that's what I want to conserve, is the status quo.
Okay.
I want less regulations, less laws. I want the people to be free to choose who they want to choose for as long as they want to keep marking that fucking box.
I like this guy, Sam. You told me
what I'm saying?
You told me we were going to disagree.
So
that's
hold
what
on.
I've been saying for fucking years. And the problem with the status quo and why the things are failing, right? It's not because of the fucking systems that we've built. It is literally a competency gap.
It's the over bloating of those systems, the woke, the waste, and the bloat.
Yeah.
That's, I think,
you got people coming into a lot of infrastructure and stuff, right? That are now being hired, not because they're the most skilled engineer, but because of DEI initiatives and all of this stuff. And that, creates a competency gap. Suddenly, bridges aren't taken care of as well as they used to be. Suddenly, the power grid fails a little more than it used to. It's not
just DEI. I mean, I would say that's probably a part of it, but it's also like
education is another one.
I mean, education's a huge one. It's just a big behemoth of a government, and there's been a lot of bureaucrats that are just writing new regulations. That's just their job. How do we write new regulations? And to build a fucking road, a federal highway in this country, you have to do the NEPA analysis. You have to talk to 15 federal agencies to get this NEPA analysis done. And then you have to do a Endangered Species Act analysis, a Clean Air and Water Act analysis. I mean, it is an endless litany of regulations,
and every one of the steps in the way builds an agency with it that employs a whole bunch of people.
Yes, that's somebody you have to talk to. I mean, Republicans tried to fix this when we had control of the House this Congress, and we're still going to fight for this. Is HR 2. The Lower Energy Costs Act was a huge deal that we've been trying to get passed, and that's what part of what we've been negotiating with the Democrats in the Senate is we need to pass some legislation that cools down this fucking bureaucracy so our country can get moving.
Yeah. Well, and then
one more thing. I just want to say one thing, and I'm so sorry for steamrolling, but
no problem.
The most eloquent defense against term limits. Against them, or maybe I would say offense against them, is a speech by Henry Hyde on the House floor in the 1980s. This is where we get he's the guy who did the Hyde Amendment.
I do remember Henry Hyde. Yeah,
no federal dollars to abortion is the Hyde Amendment, and it's part of every spending package that we've done since its existence, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Anyway, Henry Hyde's term limit speech on the House floor is the most eloquent attack against and defense against term limits I've ever seen. I mean, just incredible. You really got to see it. It's amazing. If you got free time, look it up.
I absolutely will do
that. I certainly will too. I think though, one thing I think though, kind of getting back to the term limits, I think that you inadvertently kind of hit on my point as to why people want term limits, and I hadn't really considered this, I guess, out loud before.
Mm-hmm.
But people are sick and tired of the, I guess, the bureaucracy, and they think that term limits will fix that because they think it's the problem of the politicians when it's really the problem of the unelected bureaucrats. I mean,
Even if the term limits, like, theoretically could help, it's a much more complex problem. Like I'm saying, there's a competency gap for many reasons. There's certain industries and fields all throughout America that new blood isn't coming in at all. There's other fields that they're just flooded with people who have qualifications, and there's just not enough jobs. That's a perfect example of a lot of people in my generation were told, go to college, not just go to college, but specifically get an IT degree, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened? There's a million people between like 35 and 40 years old who have an IT degree, and they're working at Geek Squad at Best Buy for just over minimum wage because there's too many of them. Because that was like a kind of like boomer era thing, is like push your kids to get, they're all going to get jobs in computers. You should too.
Yeah.
And
the guys who really hit it were like geographically. I mean, I don't really know. Like, what's the difference between, Sam Altman and Joe Schmo, who got there? Well, I mean, Sam Altman went to illustrious universities, and I don't know, where did Sam Altman go to school?
I don't know.
I feel like
I think
a lot of it has to do.
It was.
But there are Harvard. I live in Massachusetts, and there are Harvard.
Maybe
people
MIT. He might have gone on. Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. I think a lot of those degrees were more useful based on where you were geographically. Like if you went to school near Silicon Valley or were connected with people in that realm,
right?
You might have been, Joe Schmo getting an IT degree might have been more effective,
Which is why I say right now, if you're a young guy getting into college, if you're in like the Florida area, that might be a hot place to be. If you're like in Texas, Austin, that might be a hot place to be for a young.
What do you think? What do you think are like the hottest jobs?
He went to Stanford University,
which is in Palo Alto. I mean, that's where fucking Apple was started. Like. Where Steve Jobs lived. I mean, that's where he grew up, is Palo Alto.
Everybody's gonna say the answer to the question, because it's a good question. What's the hottest jobs? Everybody's gonna say AI, and that's exactly why I say not that one specifically, because I feel that you're gonna have the same effect as I was talking about with the IT rush of the early 2000s. A bunch of guys who go to school for AI, and there ends up being a hell of a lot less positions in the field than they anticipate. So I don't know what the answer is, but I feel like everybody's first instinct is going to be to say AI, right?
Yeah. That's the case of like too many generals and not enough, soldiers, right? Like, that's like just when when Luke and I were coming up, like everyone, when we were in high school, I don't know about you, Luke, but like I got advised to get like a business degree because I was interested in business. So everyone was telling me to get into business. Well, when I arrived here in Florida and tried to get into the business school, I didn't have the prereqs to do it. But as it turned out, I did have the prereqs to do my technical communications program. And as it turned out, like that, for me personally at least, having an English degree actually worked out way better for me because, even though I'm a freelancer, I've been able to like make more money than perhaps maybe just, Scott or someone randomly who just has your generic business, degree or something.
As a mid-20s guy that's just kind of like getting a little bit more of my stride, it's astonishing the degree to which networking benefits you. It's really my background is more into economics and studying human action and business. That is my degree, is a business related field. it's astonishing how selling yourself is a requirement, and knowing what value you can bring to people and providing value to their lives so that they can remember that is astonishingly useful.
Yeah,
I
how you
totally agree with
package
that.
how you package the deal is it that matters, even if because I never went to college, right? We
Yeah.
have such a variety of
It's a life skill.
experience, and just selling yourself. I've gotten jobs that college degree was a requirement for,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, oh,
Yeah.
well, on the other hand, he knows how to code at a time when not very many people. And this is what I tell young guys: wherever field you're in, find something specialized within it and really hone in on that, because that makes you
Yeah.
valuable. I tell a
I
lot of
think that's good advice. Yeah.
if you're in like blue collar work, like one of the things that's real easy to pick up and get certs for, welding. There will always be need for welders. Competent
Yeah.
skilled welders get paid very, very well.
Well,
Any specialized thing you can do to put you a step above the competition, and it's obvious on a resume, right? It needs to be at a read, like this is a skill that we could use, or that we don't have to teach this person.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm trying to think, because obviously I don't want to sort of give away too much, but yeah, I just can't emphasize enough the being aware of what you're providing to other people and how you're selling yourself is so important in the realm of making money, having acquaintances, right? Getting women, right? Finding a good wife or whatever. Like
Yeah.
all of
yeah.
these life milestones are
Well, all
achieved via that.
I think those milestones are, I mean, you know, they're the epochs of our lives, you know, and
Yeah.
we make decisions on what people in our lives help to shape us. You
well,
know, since I've been a young man, it's always been a goal of mine to like find men who are older than me, who are doing things that I think are awesome and successful. They're well
Yes.
respected by their peers. They're
mhm.
pillars in their community. You know, how do I get to know these men, work for them, see how they operate, and then garner that father son, mentor mentee relationship
Yes.
and owe them. You
Yeah.
know, every successful man, every successful person should be able to point out to one or two or three or four or five or six or more people that they owe everything to.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
they, if any favor were called up, it would be, I would have to do it. I'd have to do it. You know, I owe him the world for
And
that.
on the
You
flip
know,
side, when you get older, right, don't pull the ladder up
pay it
behind you.
forward, baby. Yeah, pay
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
forward, baby. Absolutely.
Always
Yes. Yeah.
want to remember who brought you to the table. You
Amen.
want to be
Amen.
them, you bring other people with you.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so
Yes.
there's a lot of people who are more in our line of thinking, broadly right wing conservative, however you want to chalk it up, that are very, very anti college at this point. Understandably, I mean, I think that I won't get into it, but the media academic complex is basically the root of all of our problems, in my view. But going to college statistically does give you an advantage in terms of income and that kind of thing. I think
If
that
if you make the right choices, it will.
yes.
Yeah.
So I want while I want to counter signal this don't go to college mentality that a lot of people have, especially when it's directed towards young people who want to potentially gain influence, gain power. That is advantageous. It's how the elite are sort of selected. But I also don't want to do the. I want to give them advice that doesn't lead them into this like overproduction of wannabe elites, like the left has to
Yeah.
deal with now.
That's their biggest problem, really, is they have a whole generation that all think they're going to be the commissar or whatever.
I want the young people.
That's funny.
Yeah, I want the young people that agree with me to actually be successful in gaining money, influence, power, and that kind of thing. So like,
or just having a family, a solid family, and being a small business owner in your community, and being well respected, and teaching your kids to shovel the widow's walk when there's snow on the ground. Don't ever let her lift a finger to do that.
Sam preface this whole thing like, I think you guys are gonna disagree and argue, and you've been saying the stuff I've been saying on this show all year. Just consistently.
Well, I love that. I love that, dude. Praise God for that,
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I thought you two would mainly quibble over the Trump flag in
no, because here's what it is, right? Is like, I get if a guy comes in, I didn't come in from like the hardcore Christian perspective to the right. I'm actually came in primarily, like I said, I was into the economic stuff, right? And Ross Perot, and I was somewhat involved with the Reform Party. I worked with, as a volunteer on the Pat Buchanan campaign when I was in high school. And the right wasn't right for me either, because the holy rollers of my time weren't kind to me, right? I have a guy that I became friends with over the years. You might have heard of the West Memphis 3 and Damian Eccles. I was like pen pals with him, that was in jail simply by the fact that he wore heavy metal clothes, and there was a murder, and they just assumed the heavy metal kids did it, and he was on death row for 25 years.
What, dude?
And they finally have let him out, and he lives up in like Salem, Mass now, and like he's a Wiccan now or whatever, and I'm not really into that.
Whatever. He's doing his thing. Yeah.
Like the holy rollers of the 90s are not what I see and experience now either. And I want to point that out, because people are like, well, Max, you've said things in the past. And it's like, yeah, if I run into the holy rollers that I think are out of control now, I say so. But most Christians nowadays just are basically trying to defend the little turf they have left.
Yeah. I mean, I could call out the bad actor, like, in my opinion, Matt Walsh has come onto my radar. I didn't really consume any of his content. As of recently, I think he's kind of going off the reservation.
Is he the guy who was like Catholic apologetics and was condemning? I kind of vaguely remember him.
He's like a Daily Wire kind of guy.
Yeah, that's right.
He was saying
that guy. Yeah.
Well, in particular, he said that like religion supersedes the law of the land, and then endorsed tearing down statues.
Oh, he's like a dominionist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like basically, that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't, but I meet Christians now, especially a lot of Trump supporting Christians and evangelicals, and they're in a whole different headspace from the people trying to cancel my metal music and my Dungeons and Dragons. They're trying to preserve the very little bit of space they have left in society. And being raised Catholic, being up here in Massachusetts, one thing that stood out to me, like, this is the difference between when I was a kid and the bad Christians were trying to censor, and now is I saw during the riots they had beheaded one of the oldest Mary statues in the country. Well, that meant a lot to a lot of people in that area. It's a historic Boston church, and it's just an absolute desecration of their place of worship in the name of what? That doesn't accomplish anything. It just hurts some people.
I think that's one thing that's made the U.S. pretty successful. And I mean, I think the Anglosphere and maybe broader spheres outside of that, but like the balance that our society has struck in the past 500 years between, maybe longer than 500 years, but maybe we have to just sit at the Reformation point, is the balance between the sanctity of religion and its place in society, but also the need for like secularization. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that a reasonable thing? Like, the secular spheres must respect the sacred, transcendent spheres of human life. You know,
I don't need to be stomping your holy ground,
no.
but you don't need to put your holy ground in my
As
face.
as an American,
and
you're
we
an
can just
American,
respect
you're an American, you're an American.
Yeah.
As a Catholic, you are not a Catholic because you do not believe these things. You know, you can make a delineation like that, you know, or
Right.
as a Catholic, you know, transubstantiation is what we believe, you know, and if you don't believe that, you are not a Catholic, you know.
Correct.
Well,
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
I mean,
it's
Pretty
just
cut and dry too.
the way I
Yeah.
would frame it is not sort of secular versus religious. Actually, it's just deeper than that. It's avoiding the cost of fighting each other and allowing us to live together in a society where we can enjoy the benefits of not having those problems. Because
Totally.
when you
Yeah.
get to the point like the Mount Walsh thing, it's like, well, the satanic statue that was built is just inherently bad and it's wrong. It's self-evidently wrong, and it doesn't matter if it's legal. We can go there and vandalize the statue and tear it down, and that's
Right.
self-evidently
Yeah.
good.
And then some guy comes along and
Mm.
decides that your crucifix or your
Yep.
stained glass windows. I mean, Varg comes along, Varg Vikernes in Norway, and decides your old beautiful churches get burnt down. It's the same thing, right? You
Yeah.
have to respect the law and order of the land, and part
Yeah.
of that is we respect people's sacred places, even if they're
But
different from our own.
and yes, I agree with that, but I am not somebody who believes in just tolerance. I mean,
Well,
I
yeah.
really think if your religion's values are sadistic or they don't line up with our values, I mean, I think there are basic principles. Like if your religion is,
It's the
and this
same
is what
thing,
the
though.
human rights of the
Stay
Geneva,
in
this
your-
is what
stay in
post
your
19,
Square. Stay in your fucking
yeah,
box, and we have no problem.
but yeah, right. Follow the
Pardon me,
law. Human
I
rights
cuss
are a
like
real
I just
thing.
wanted. I don't know if you're okay with it, but I cuss like a
Yeah.
sailor. And I apologize.
No, that's what?
No,
Come on, please, brother.
No,
Please.
I've been trying not to use the particular F slur that is like a part of my vocabulary, just out of my own thing.
What,
That's been a hard
faggot?
thing for me.
I've been using it this whole time. I'm telling you, I cuss like a sailor. Don't even sweat.
No, listen, you should hear some of the phone conversations that Luke and I have.
No,
We
but
get into it. Yeah,
But seriously,
we do.
like even
Yeah.
with stuff like, because to some degree, woke is a religion, right? And they're stepping
yeah.
out of their box. That's what it really is. The same people I'm complaining about who were grinding down people like me listening to metal music were still even just a loud minority of Christians then. And I know that because I was a Rush Limbaugh listener. You know what I mean? So like, because my grandfather got me into it when I was a kid. So I knew conservatives weren't all crazy, right? And that's what a lot of people, this is important though, because a lot of people in our age group didn't get that lesson. And instead they got their political education from Jon Stewart on Comedy Central. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And that's where their views stem from. But now the gay stuff in particular has stepped so far outside of the box.
Yeah.
The thing I said I got banned for was I went to do the straight pride parade in Boston, and a lot of people didn't get it.
Oh, wow.
It was partially a joke, right? And I held up a sign that said "Make normalcy normal again," and I got on like CBS News and stuff like that.
Seriously, wow,
Yeah,
you got on that's funny.
Because they were all like, "What does normal even mean?" And I was like, "Hey, guess what? You got my sign, idiot."
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. Wow.
You know what
The
I'm
other
saying?
thing,
like to some degree, we all know what normal is, right? And that was the joke of the sign, is like, we all know what normal is, and normal is not what some of the pride parade in Boston does.
And I think a lot of Democrats out there understand that, like, they have their radical wing, you know, like in the culture war, like the Republicans have pretty radical people out there. I mean, we really do. We have some crazy mofos on our team, and some of them, I would say, do not
on our team,
or who think,
right?
yes, yeah, preach that,
Yeah.
yes, for sure, dude. And I think the Democrats are saying the same thing. We know that they are. I mean, like every Democrat who's like, "Oh, you're a Democrat that supports, RFK," like, and that's like he was polling at like 17% at one point. What?
Well, Well,
And
but-
some people really like him, but a normal mainstream Democrat fucking hates RFK and thinks they need to
People
consolidate.
don't realize
You know?
it's not just the COVID stuff he's saying. They thought he was stupid before that because he was the vaccines cause autism guy. And
right. Yeah,
whatever people
yeah.
think about that issue, I'm not here to judge anybody's beliefs on it. But the mainstream Democrat Party thinks that is like the stupidest opinion you can have.
Oh wait, but and I'm a very pro-vaccine person. I am totally about that. So long as it's well studied and goes through the bureaucratic process to verify it's good, all the normal procedures.
Taking precautions.
Right,
I'm
most
right there
of the
with
time.
you, actually.
But I know there have been court cases wherein vaccines caused serious long-term problems.
Right.
Well,
And they were not disclosed.
yeah.
I mean, we know the government was testing stuff, the Tuskegee Airmen, blah, 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 blah.
And that's one thing I was saying during COVID. They were like, why do a lot of black people not get the COVID vaccine? And I'm like, because their grandfather got a vaccine from the government and gave him syphilis,
right.
bro.
Or they got polio from the fucking polio vaccine or died, or whatever. Yeah.
In the black community, that's a real living memory.
Absolutely.
That's just grandpa.
Yeah.
Well, I
You know
mean, my whole thing was, I mean, I've told each of you this story like privately, but like I didn't get the COVID vaccine, but it's not because I'm anti-vax. It's because the last time I got the flu vaccine, I actually got the flu like really bad. And also,
my cousin is a nurse. I think I've said that to her before, bro, and she's disabused me of that notion. And I can't remember the science behind it, but I don't think it's coming from the vaccine. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, that's fair.
But it's a fair reaction.
And
to
she's
have.
a nurse. Yeah.
I
don't know. I don't know.
I get it. I get it from people like Sam. I know a lot of people like this in my life too. I got the flu vax and then I got sick, and that it's easy to make that connection.
What I'm saying though, Luke, is like before COVID, like I would share that story and people be like, oh, okay, so like I understand why you don't want to get the flu vaccine. Well, then after COVID happened, it became you don't want to get the vaccine, you just want grandma to die. And it's like and it's like, no, I'm not a crazy anti-vaxxer. Like I'm just making this decision for myself. And if you want, like, I've never shamed other people for getting the vaccine. Like I'm not one of those.
I didn't know this, Sam. I mean, you're a crazy anti-vaxxer and you want grandma to die, and so I can't be associated with this show.
Oh my gosh.
Disavow.
Sam, that might have been the reason are you back on YouTube or are you off YouTube or what's the deal?
Well, listen, Luke,
Sam, everybody else gets kicked off because they won't take the COVID vaccine. Sam will be the one guy that gets kicked off because of the flu vaccine.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if I told you this story. I think I did tell you this story, but like Max and Smuley were both there for it. But you remember when my grandfather passed away earlier this year? I actually got kicked off off of YouTube in the middle of me eulogizing my grandfather.
Yes.
Wow.
And so
yeah.
And he was streaming on another platform, so you can see the whole thing if you look over here on Rumble, where they don't ban you for eulogizing your grandfather.
Is that where we are right now? I don't even know what
I'm
on.
We have a couple. We're on like we're on like Twitter and Spotify.
We're on Rumble and we're on Twitter, or I guess X as it's called now, but I just call it Twitter.
And we're going on 3 years right now of you guys teaming up on this project.
And don't forget OnlyFans.
No, just a year.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
OnlyFans.com/Sam.
Well,
Sam, if you got that handle, that would be amazing. There's probably 1 million Sams on OnlyFans right now.
Yeah.
Well, I joke.
Somebody looks that up in the audience, and they're not going to find him.
A few episodes ago, though, we got a topless Sam picture on the stream. So I mean, I joke, but I'm playing the long game.
Back when Apex and I used to do the stream, and I know you've met Apex before, Luke. He and I used to do.
Oh yeah, good man.
he and I used to do parodies of like Alex Jones, and I would always like rip my shirt off like Alex Jones.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
that's what
that's
happened is
fantastic.
Apex, he had to stop the show for personal reasons, and I was like, well, I can fill in, Sam, or I'll get some of my friends and we'll do rotating. And we've just been having so much fun since he got banned, especially
Dude.
because now we can just talk freely.
Yeah,
And we've been having some fun. We had a Kurt Doolittle on. That was a good one. We've had, oh God, you had your friend in Israel on right after the attack.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
I gotta go back and watch that one.
Mm.
Sam, you were telling me about that on the phone.
Yeah,
What a terrible thing.
yeah, I mean,
Wow. Yeah.
but like that's type of stuff that like I'm also happy to do because like no one was, and she was just, and my friend in Israel is just a, she's not really a public figure. She's just a civilian on the ground, but like oftentimes those people are like better informed than the so-called experts on, the news or something because they're actually in the trenches.
And it's more
the thi-
relatable because, you see something on the news or you see a video scrolling across your Twitter feed versus having somebody who's there and they have an experience. And this is something we've been talking
Oh,
about a
yes.
lot on the
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Is like I made up a fictional character in Palestine named Muhammad, and he don't care much for Hamas. He just wants to drive his truck for his job, right? And I
For
can
sure.
empathize with this person no matter what anybody else says.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And our stance has kind of been like, I've been saying specifically, I don't care how corny it is. I want peace, right? That's my main objective, is for people to stop dying because it's awful.
Yeah, it is a terrible and difficult situation, and I mean,
It
whoever
sounds so corny, but it's just like, I
No,
can
it's
empathize
of
with
course,
other human
yeah.
beings.
Yes,
I
yes,
mean,
yeah.
Luke, I think I've told you this, but like, I've had Ben Shapiro on my show famously, but one of the things that I vehemently
Mhm.
disagree with him on is he seems to have taken this stance that, if you're not for the IDF fully going in and just wiping, Gaza off the map, basically turning into glass, you're an anti-Semite. And
Right.
by all means, I am all for the IDF taking out Hamas and doing what they need to do, but I think, civilian
But
casualties
we just
should be.
understand the reality is that it's more complex than there's the bad guys, go get them.
Mm.
Right. And that doesn't make anybody anti-Semitic. I mean, I famously have like an Israel flag in my Twitter handle, and I had it before the attacks. It was an idiot test because if somebody really comments on it, they're almost always like an anti-Semite, and I can disregard their opinion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Are
not
they gonna call-
Jewish at all, right? I just have it there literally because I know that this person isn't worth talking to if they're like, why do you have that? I have a cross. And then you're like a Zionist, and I'm not that either, right?
Well, like, I mean, I've been called an anti-Semite. Me, Smuley.
Yeah, Smuley.
Yeah.
We're dealing with. The funny thing is, I get targeted with anti-Semitism now because of the flag in my name.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I had a guy who was making a video game glorifying Hamas that posted under that they were gonna like put me in the game and kill me and stuff. And it's just like,
what?
Yeah, right on Twitter. I don't know how he even found
gosh.
me. It was just a random guy, and he was like, "It's called Hamas Heroes is the game, and it was on Steam at the time."
Do you think Twitter is better now?
I think, yeah, actually. Yeah, I like the openness, and I like even that happens. And I understand that not everybody can handle that kind of thing, right? I don't block anybody. I'm a free speech guy. I don't get offended by anything.
I love that. He's an absolutist. That's a
Not
great
really,
thing.
not complete absolutist, but pretty close,
Okay,
I'm
I think that's reasonable.
Brandenburg versus Ohio free speech guy.
Yeah, I'm a Brandenburg v. Ohio free speech guy.
Okay,
That's pretty much
what is that? The Ohio State shootings? What is
No,
that case? Remind me the
Court,
precedent.
Supreme Court decision. Basically, and I can't say what was said, but a Klan put out a video, okay, and in the video they suggested as a matter of a policy that they were advocating politically that you L the ends, okay? And the video was ruled by the Supreme Court to be free speech, right? Because because what they said is
it was a generalization. Yeah.
They created what they called the Brandenburg test. And the Brandenburg test is, are you advocating a policy position, or are you specifically saying this person at this time in this place?
Okay. Yeah. I've heard that before.
Are you making it basically the Brandenburg free speech distinction is, are you making a threat? Like an imminent threat.
An imminent call.
Fuck, it's been a minute since con law.
Well, it's just an
like, it's good to keep up on that precedent with all this shit going on in the world, though. Like, that's excellent. Yeah.
Well, just as somebody, I think Max and I we both sort of have like a passion. That's one of our firm beliefs is freedom of speech. And so people go, well, like, where's the line? And like Brandenburg.
Yeah, same here.
Like if I say, hey, people who I'm with right now, let's go commit violence.
Right.
That would cross the line over to incitement. But simply saying that violence should be done is not. And this is
right.
So that's why I say,
tasteful as it may be,
yes,
saying I, if elected, would kill these people is legal and should be legal. And my argument for that is nobody in their right mind is ever going to vote for that person. And if they do, we've fallen so far as a society that I really hope God comes and wipes us all out.
So even with a lot of these like Hamas protesters, I find what they're saying really, really distasteful.
Yeah.
But it's not illegal, right?
And it may violate Harvard's. I mean, this was the whole thing that was before the Committee on Education and Workforce is like, you know, you had all the Harvard presidents or MIT, Harvard, and University of Pennsylvania come in there and, you know, they could not answer that simple question from Elise Stefanik. Like, does the calling of genocide for the Jewish people violate Harvard's ethics, rules, and regulations with regard to free speech?
Well, the flip side of what I'm saying,
or bullying and harassment. It wasn't anything to do with the First Amendment,
right? We don't have to fund it either. That's an important thing. Just because I think you should be able to advocate for whatever crazy shit you want, we don't have to fund an institution with federal dollars that advocates that, right? That's a big distinction. Too.
Yeah, and those are private institutions. All three of those are private institutions.
Well,
do they receive billions? Oh, fucking, you better believe they maybe not. Well, probably subsidies, but they have government grants and contracts out the ass, billions of dollars.
There's a contract in there, and it's not just a social contract. It's an actual, you're taking government funds, and because then the people, our money, at least have some right to suggest that, look, you should respect free speech, or is this too much on a college campus and does it violate your own rules and we should hold you to account? So that's why I say I'm not a free speech extremist. If it makes sense.
I would posit that it's kind of they're being guillotined by their own guillotine.
Right.
And so I find it beautiful and poetic that these sort of left-wing activists who would have told you that freedom of speech was bad are now being, hung because they crossed the line, because no one told them the line, because all of the institutions have always sided with them. Well, now they're finding themselves being attacked. But I would say that kind of the whole ethos that was purported by these colleges was the exact opposite of the idea of freedom of speech. It was the idea that, like, you can't do hate speech. And of course, what is and is not hate speech will just be determined by those with power, obviously.
Whatever aligns with what we like and what we don't. Yeah.
Yes.
Or whatever aligns with, Harvard's board of directors and their liberal professors. And that's who's determining in that small ecosystem, which is not accountable to the Constitution.
And it is very comedic then to hold them to those standards and be like, hey, this violates your own standards. I get why it's kind of satisfying to people, but at the end of the day, I don't think any of them are going to be held accountable either.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, what's her name stepped down? You had Jewish
Yeah.
You know, you had Jewish alumni and pro-Israel Israeli alumni saying we're just not going to fund your endowment anymore, and they were losing hundreds of millions,
they should,
literally billions of dollars
Well,
for
That's what I mean.
not
That's what I
standing
mean.
and condemning this rhetoric on their
You
campuses.
can let people say whatever they want, but you sure as hell don't have to give them your money.
Sure, yeah, that's damn
well, yeah,
right. Yeah.
and
I
that,
have an anecdote that you might like that these guys have heard because I've told it a couple times, but I feel like it kind of sums up the left's feelings on Palestine. I do a lot of walking because I've been losing weight, hit 40. I'm a dad. I want to stick around.
Excellent, most
So I'm out
excellent.
there walking and I see on the side of the road one of those little handheld Palestine flags, right? That you would have at a protest. Directly in the other direction down the road is a famously liberal college that I am certain, I don't need to look it up or anything, had a Palestine protest, right? And so then that to me says what happened here is as they're driving home to mommy and daddy's house, those little white liberal girls, they threw the Palestina, oh, free Palestina flag right out the fucking window and on the ground because it's just an accessory to their outfit. They don't give a shit about these topics. It's a fashion statement and a trend among these 19-year-old girls.
It literally is a TikTok trend.
Yep.
yeah,
Literally.
no,
Yeah,
it literally is.
Yeah,
And-
they have
and
no
as good
understanding of the history of the conflict, of what's been going on, of the Oslo Accords, or the settlers, or what Hamas has done in the past, or I mean, they on both sides of the conflict, they have no notion. Gentlemen, I am sorry to be abrupt, but I do have to skedaddle. It has been such an honor to be on here with you. Sam, I love you. You are my brother. And thank you, everyone else on here. I don't know how many people we have on who are watching, but I love Sam dearly. I've known him my entire life, and I think he's really doing a good thing here. And Sam, I can't say much more, but thank you for having me on.
Before you leave, someone in chat said that you can't walk, unlike Sam. Is this true?
I can't walk, unlike Sam.
Yes.
Right. Well, okay. There's a conspiracy in chat that Sam can really walk, and so now they're conspiracy theorying that you actually can't.
Oh, that he's hijacked my life story. And tried to make money off of Patreon donors for pity.
Oh, no. Now I'm starting to believe that.
Now you're going to see them.
We're spinning it up now. All right, boys, I gotta go. I'll see you later, Sam.
Time, sir.
See you, gents.
Happy New Year. If I don't.
Yeah, Happy New Year to all. Yes, yeah. We'll talk. Right. See ya.
We never saw him stand. Notice how he left right after the question.
Have you guys ever seen me stand though? That's the
you showed a picture.
You showed us a picture of it, dude.
Okay, but like you can just see me from the waist down. I could have been like kneeling or whatever, which is what I was.
You had like
posing, like
you had
showing off the guns.
You had the I take sexy selfies guy pose. You had the like divorced dad sext, where you stand up and you kind of aim down and you can see my abs. Like, yeah. How would you have taken that in a wheelchair? It's impossible, Sam.
Because I'm just that good.
Wheelchair guy who's ever lived.
And look, I didn't believe a lot of this stuff. Like perhaps you propped yourself up with one hand or whatever. Like that.
That's exactly what that's exactly what I've done.
I'm not saying that you can run around, fucking free as the wind, okay? But this might be like how blind is the guy really? Kind of a deal,
Well, listen, like I will say this, like Mersh loved to like make fun of me and pretend that like I was some ultra cripple, but then like Jesse
that sounds so fucking cool.
Yeah.
But then Jesse and everyone else is like, but then Jesse and everyone else is like, Mersh stutters more than Sam does. I don't know what he's doing, like making fun of Sam stuttering, because Mersh stutters a lot more than Sam does.
I've never seen you have a stroke.
No.
So that's one that you have going for you.
I'm willing to bet that you get more pussy than Mersh.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
at least of a higher quality.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
I don't know. Mersh got 3 cats now.
I hate to talk about Mersh, but I'm all like, every time he's brought up, I'm just reminded of the fact that like he was hanging out at like the Ruby Tuesday bar on a Wednesday, and he was so offended that this single mother came up and hit on me. It's like, yeah, obviously. Like he thinks he's above that. Like she did something wrong.
Yeah.
Like you're the guy in his 30s at the Ruby Tuesday bar on a Wednesday night. Like yes, she hit on you, your peers.
So I want to talk about something, Sam, here. You know, you kept hyping it up. We were going to have this argument with this neocon guy. You said neocon. I hope he sees this. And I was like,
I'll clip it.
I'm a pretty nice guy. Like, I get along with people. I can meet people where they're at pretty well. We didn't disagree once.
Yeah.
No.
Where was the disagreement? Like, I told Max, I'm sure
he came for the disagreement.
Yeah, he did. Well, he and I have been friends since kindergarten. As corny as it may be, he and I go back that far.
Look, you don't like Trump, that's fine, right? But like what I see is that what I've been saying is true of like the millennial and younger conservative movement, is that we have a common core that supersedes that going forward. Like, I can certainly picture working together with him in the future of the Conservative Party, regardless of whether he was going to vote for Trump or not.
Well, what do you think I've been doing behind the scenes? Like,
now,
right.
Exactly. I just wanted to point that out because it's a very hopeful thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I want to work with Luke to run Smuley's future presidential campaign.
But just to be clear,
that'd be his third one at this point.
Something that I was able to bring up, specifically the Matt Walsh kind of sphere of conservatives are now just against freedom of speech. Because Satanists can have freedom of speech.
Yeah,
here's the thing too is they're going up against. I've mentioned this before. Lucian Greaves in the Temple of Satan specifically, and this is their whole grift.
Yep.
Go behead their statue. They would want nothing more than that.
Yep.
Well, that's what they live for, because they'll sue
the Matt Walsh conservatives and the social justice warriors on the left. They're almost like two sides of the same coin, right?
Each other, yeah.
You always hear the term like you go too far left, you go far right, and then you go like right. Like they're both right. Like at some point, like the two extremes actually meet up, and like the other thing too is like when I saw like everyone's been praising that guy who like beheaded that Satan statue, and I actually got flack because I was like, no. This is stupid. Like, why are yeah, it might be satanic and I don't agree with it, but like,
I'm glad that we agree, Sam. My point, I do disagree though about the horseshoe theory thing to some degree. Like, I don't think it's as easily chalked up to, like, if you go too far one way, you end up in the other way. They're going to agree somewhat on tactics, perhaps, but I don't think
what it is.
I don't think that Matt Walsh...
Extremists use the same tactics and often rhetoric, regardless of what their political...
Yeah, Well,
And
let me
I get
clarify.
I have been accused. Listen, I was told repetitively by people online, "You're like Matt Walsh" or whatever. I never listened to him until recently.
I've never listened to him either, really.
Same.
And
Yeah.
I just to say, I am not like Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh, in terms of tactics, is what somebody might think my position is in terms of strategy. If you like want to be extremely uncharitable and not hear me out at all.
Or
To
I
be
think
fair-
Matt Walsh is what you might do as a bit,
Yeah.
like
To
a
be-
joke. Like he's a parody of that kind of person that we've been going after extremists of all varieties in that regard for years. Like, stop being a fucking spurg. I don't care what your politics are. You go so far and you live in your little autistic fantasy land where your ideas are so superior and you don't need to cooperate with anybody else or be a part of anything because you're the hyper-atomized individual that also needs to be in charge of everybody's day-to-day activity and when they go to the bathroom.
Well, Max,
Well-
good is good and bad is bad. And so that's his
wow.
argument, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
Well,
You're right, though.
Shmuley, if I may, I think the reason why people would kind of compare you and Matt Walsh, and this is kind of the only similarity I see is literally like your mannerisms and the way you guys speak are a little bit
Okay.
similar. But that, other than that, like, yeah, you guys,
And
like,
and also
Matt-
you're both snazzy dressers.
yeah, well,
true,
Matt,
true.
well, like, but like Matt Walsh, like, doesn't understand your sense of humor at all. No, to be fair, a lot of people don't, but like Matt Walsh, I feel like Matt Walsh wouldn't understand my sense of humor either.
Well, it's just
Um,
I am allergic to being pwned, and exactly the kind of thing that the Matt Walshes are doing because they're being driven by their moral institutions is being pwned by the most cringiest Satanists in the world.
Literally,
Yeah,
the cringiest people you can think of. When you talk the people he's at war with, okay, just for fucking clarity's sake, Lucien Greaves is a soy boy, vegetarian, pro-tranny, all that stuff, pro-abortion lefty who worships Satan ironically to piss off Christians, and he goes to places that have Christian displays in the public space, okay, and he sues so that they have to put his satanic display right next to them to make Christians mad so
Well,
that you
that-
might attack his display and he can sue you personally because it's literally just trolling.
well, that's my problem with that. Honestly, that's my problem with Shia Reshek or whatever her name is, Libs of TikTok. My biggest problem with Libs of TikTok, and I hate when conservatives do this, is or anyone does this, like Libs of TikTok, I don't think people understand. Her whole thing is she literally goes out onto TikTok to try and find like the most fringe person and then advertise that as the entirety of a group. Like, yeah,
I think that's incredibly effective.
Well,
think
Cherry
that's
picking
fair.
works really well.
I mean, it does work well, but like, okay, well, like, let me give you an example though. Like, what I'm talking about, like, lady, like, I really don't agree with like trans, genderism, like morally, but I would rather work with like a transgender who agrees with me on 90, 8% of the same policies. I would rather work with that person than someone who
I'm gonna be honest with you, Sam.
might.
I'm not sure that there's a transgender that I would agree with 98% of policies on. I don't think that exists.
I'm just saying. I don't
And I
think that
marched,
exists
by the
either.
way.
I'm just saying.
I mentioned straight pride. I did march. There was a tranny marching with us, but I think we could be like a 60%, right? But I don't think that I could ever get to me personally to that level of agreement with them.
No,
Sam, the hypothetical. Yeah, go ahead, complete it. Sorry.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I agree with you, Max. Like,
I think it's built in that there's some things we're just going to disagree on.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, like, I would rather work with someone who, yeah, I disagree with on some shit rather than like throw the baby out with the bathwater, like the Matt Walshes of the world.
Can you define
the libertarians for years? It's like, you want to get rid of 100% of the government. I want to get rid of like 80. Can we just talk about that 80% first? And they're like, no.
Yeah,
we have to pretend that 80's already gone and argue about that.
I see. Work with is just kind of an interesting term. Like, I'll work with anybody if it means that I can achieve the thing that we do, and ideally, if we find common ground, then we can work together to achieve that common ground. So, like, yeah, I mean, of course, in the hypothetical, I'll work with whoever to achieve whatever end needs to be achieved. But,
but what I'm saying is someone like Matt Walsh, they're not going to do that because no, you have to be absolutely puritanical to this.
Purity spiraling. Purity spiraling is equivalent to being a loser.
Purity spiraling, and I actually brought this up today on Twitter. Purity spiraling is what got us Mitt Romney in 2012. We had Herman Cain, who I guarantee would have beaten Obama in the 2012 election. But no,
I think he would have done better than Mitt Romney. Like, nobody can disagree. He would have done better than Mitt Romney for sure. Whether you think he'd have won or not, it'd have been close.
Well, you know what the GOP canned him for, right? They canned him for admitting to an affair that he had had 30 years prior.
Yeah.
And that was it. And that's what I'm saying. That's what drives me insane about the Republican Party is they could.
I was glad they kind of made an exception with Trump because, yes, I personally don't like the fact that Trump has been divorced multiple times. I'm uncomfortable with, like, I don't want, because that means he's mismanaging one thing. But then I look at everything else about him and I'm like, that's okay. But I understand that other people might be put off by that, right? But it seems like they were able to not purity spiral and we got him elected in the first place.
Yeah, well, have these people ever read
first divorced president, by the way?
Have these people never read Alinsky?
No.
You're getting pwned. Your enemy literally wishes to hold you by your own standards in order to gain advantage over you, and you're doing it to yourself.
You believe in freedom of religion, huh? Well, what if I put a Satan statue right next to your Jesus statue? They all get to be here together. Ha ha. You getting mad about that makes them proves their point.
Yep. You got pwned.
You got completely fucking eaten alive by the cringiest Reddit Satanists in the world.
And to answer your question, Shmuley, I think you were kind of asking this rhetorically maybe, but no, a lot of conservatives actually haven't read rules for radicals because for whatever reason they're too busy or they don't want to concern themselves.
Conservatives don't read a lot of things, and it's kind of important, I think, to see where the other side comes from. Another one, it might be worth your while to read, Marx's pamphlet that you can read in fucking half an hour. That is the basis of the entire enemy and everything they stand for. It's a pamphlet, bro. It's not even a book. The Communist Manifesto does not take you long to read at all, and it will teach you a lot about how they think and operate. And people wonder why I'm able to kind of predict certain things. It's not because I have some fucking goddamn Nostradamus power. They act according to the stuff that they've written. They act according to the rules for radicals. They act according to Gramsci. They act according to fucking Marx and Engels. It's all very obvious what they're doing. The Frankfurt School, like, they've told you what they're going to do. It's all out there in the public. And the only goddamn conspiracy theory you're not allowed to talk about is the communists that have taken over everything.
Yep. Well, and
if you read leftist theory, another fun thing about it, I promise you, no one has written as much scathing things in pure contempt for liberals than these radicals.
True.
Like-
Liberals get the bullet as soon as the opportunity presents itself. That's what they believe.
Same.
Not first, but two.
Well, I mean, and like I've even read like I haven't read the whole Quran, but like I've actually read some of the like more radical, passages of the Quran. And the funny thing is like all the feminists who are like pro Palestine or whatnot, they're the first ones to get their heads chopped
May I
off.
suggest you actually read it, because what you just said is kind of like, imagine if I said to you, Sam, I have an opinion on Christianity. I've only read the passages that are the more radical ones from the Bible. Isn't that kind of dismissive?
I mean,
Aren't you missing context? I don't know. I feel like you're better than that, man.
No, I mean you're right. What I'm saying though is like most conservatives won't even
read that. Right, you're correct.
Won't even read that.
And that's why I'll give you shit over it, because I know by giving you shit over it, you'll be like, you know what? I should probably read it.
Yeah. I mean,
well,
yeah.
I mean,
no,
even. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
My purpose in doing that though was like, okay, I want to read like the craziest. I want to read the craziest, most whacked out parts. And granted, I've read that from the Bible too.
If you read the craziest, most whacked out parts of War and Peace, it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is just the way you said it. It did strike me as funny, because if I had flipped it around and I said, I heard I listened to all the most radical things Rush Limbaugh ever said, so I kind of know about him.
Fair point. No, I mean the other funny thing is though is like there are a lot more similarities between Christianity, Judaism, and Islam than people like from just in general.
I kind of feel like when they say Judeo-Christian, the fact that they exclude Islamo from that can sometimes be annoying, because it's a strain that strain of thinking. If you're going to include Christians, you should include Muslims, because it's the same monotheistic strain and they believe in the same thing.
I've talked to Muslims who I get along with just fine, and there are a lot of similarities. And granted, this was when I was a lot younger, but there were like a lot more similarities that like my mind was blown.
Being raised Catholic, I tend to like have the most like kinship or understanding with people from very like strict religions, with very like kind of fiery beliefs, and that goes across the board. Like there's like specific subsets of Buddhists and Shintoists who are more fire and brimstone that I tend to get along with, and it's interesting. You either get that more traditional hellfire and brimstone mindset, or you have the more hippy dippy fairy one, and it seems like nobody really has the two in terms of a religion. Every religion either focuses one or the other.
I've been told that people think that I'm very religious.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, they say I'm Catholic or I'm Muslim or whatever, and I find this.
And none of them know you're an Orthodox Jew, right?
Hey, don't dox me, bro. But no, it's kind of astonishing.
Orthodox, by the way.
Because my point is essentially that I feel that there's folk wisdom in this, and I can I view it almost as evolutionarily. Like, I know that if I pick a religion that's like Judaism, Christianity, Islam, that people have lived holding those beliefs sincerely and successfully survived through all these trials and tribulations that occur over the
Not
years.
only survived, here's the interesting thing about that, because survival will bring the genetics forth, right?
Yeah.
But what else they did is they survived and brought their memetics forth.
Yes.
which they're the first ones to have done that by holding on to that holy book and teaching it to their kids and spreading it that way. They are the first civilization to bring forth not just their genetics, but their memetics, which is explains why it went through the world in such a different way than every other religion.
And so my point is usually something to the effect of, you've just decided that all of these things are dumb and that all of this sort of built up generational wisdom is just bullshit. And instead you're going to do whatever you feel brings you pleasure or whatever, and you're going to use your logic to justify it. And then, yeah, you see these people harming society, destroying norms, and then we have all of these horrible repercussions. It's like, yeah.
And interestingly, every one of these religions they're mocking has some story, or some fable about exactly that.
Let's come up with a cool example. Like, should I let other dudes fuck my wife? What does Judaism say about that? Oh, you shouldn't. What does Islam say about that? Oh, you shouldn't. What does Christianity say about? Oh, you shouldn't. I'm pretty sure the Hindus are not about that either, right? It's like
that's what I'm saying.
But what
is
what is
that,
what
like,
do
we have a
these
lot more in common than.
But what do these people do when they just throw out all of these religions? Is they think to themselves, I'd like to get some strange. Maybe if we have an open relationship. And then they come up with some logic to justify it. But a lot of the things that these religions kind of inoculated a population against was behavior that when you externalize it, right? When everyone tries to engage in it, it causes repercussions to society.
Yeah. And provably and repeatably.
Yes.
Almost like an experiment, almost like scientific method, but what do I know?
Yeah, and so this is my argument behind why we should take seriously the edicts that are in religion. That is not to say that it is always written in stone and that you can never adapt, because there is a thing called technological progress, and that often will disrupt things, and your religion needs a way to come to terms with that. That's why I particularly like Judaism, because of the Talmud, right? The rabbinical tradition would say, well, what do we do to adapt to that? And also Catholicism, because you have this huge body of work. Yeah. Right. I love that aspect of those.
And for those that aren't very religious in one of those branches, I know a lot of people talk about the Talmud now that they don't know what it is. The Catechism and the Talmud are a similar tradition, which is the church elders or the rabbis, right? The head, rabbis of the whole deal, the highest, most respected in the land, and the top bishops or whatever will sit down and they'll argue. And if you read the Catechism or the Talmud, it's mostly arguments from different people at different times about, hey, I think that we should apply this, law from the Old Testament this way because of this thing that's going on now, and here's my case for it intellectually, as well as here is scriptural backing for it. They do the same thing with the Talmud, except it's the Torah. And so this is the elders of the religious community sort of communally over time coming up with a book of arguments both for and against things as the world evolves around them. It's not canon like the Bible, but it's something that if you're a thinking person, if you're a philosophical man, if you're a learned man, and especially if you were getting into any type of priesthood, rabbi, whatever, you would want to know this inside and out, because that's how they decide, kind of the dogma of the operational body of the church.
And you could see why I like
everybody.
You can see why I like that, being a person who, loves the common law.
Yeah. It's basically church common law, yes.
Yeah, yeah. And these are the kinds of like intergenerational fucking wisdom machines that just benefit your group so exponentially. It's worth having around.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting even if you don't believe in any of it, because what you come across in the Catechism or the Talmud is a lot of arguments that you might not have thought about. It's just food for thought, and sometimes they include stuff that you're not intended to take seriously at all as well. Just making the case hypothetically, because you're talking about the people who could write were the priestly class, right? They're the biggest autistic nerds in the world at the time. So what did they do? They argue about shit. They write hypothetical papers on the morality of whether you should fuck your wife or not. You know?
The point being is that when faced with some new technological change, like, I don't know, the existence of OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Or just the internet in general.
Yeah. What should we do in response to this? Having 2,000 years of people who have written and made arguments, you can find similar things or arguments that then can be made into new arguments, case.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can come forth with some sort of decision that's not just based on the immediate logic of whatever we come up with on our head and then just wild popular opinion, because the passions of the moment will guide you in ways that are not advantageous.
Yeah, because, I like to say life is messy, right?
Yes.
And it's not always as clean and neat as people would like it to be. And here you have guys that their whole job was to autistically argue about the morality and case law of the application of, the commandments of God, because they're nerds and that's all they have to do. It's philosophical. It's interesting. I find a lot of Protestant based people tend to see philosophy and religion as very distant.
Really?
Yeah, they seem to think of philosophy. If you say philosophy to them, they're gonna think of Socrates and Nietzsche, right? Oftentimes they don't think about Christianity itself as a philosophy, or the fact that Catholics revere saints. It's not the same as Prots think it is. It's usually they're revered for their wisdom.
So when they think of philosophy, they don't think of
Augustine.
Yeah, Augustine Aurelius. Man, I know Aquinas. I always end up saying Aquinas when I mean Marcus Aurelius and vice versa. It's very, very
because they'll think of him. If you said theologian, he might come to mind. But if you say philosopher, honestly, it seems to me Prots think of modern or romantic era or that kind of philosophy, or classical Socrates, Aristotle.
Well, and pardon me if I'm wrong, but what tradition are they building upon? Do they revere the church fathers usually when they're...
Not usually. No, you're not supposed to do that. Ancestor worship is frowned upon.
Oh yeah,
well, I don't consider it that, but that's what they would say. See, that's the thing, is I've sat in on a bunch of different religions at this point in my life, and one thing I find about Protestants is that lack of depth to a lot of what they try to teach. If you go to their Sunday school, for example, I went to Catholic catechism school. Okay. And I didn't go to a Catholic school. I went to a Catholic program that they have essentially 3 times a week on top of school. That's, if you don't go to a Catholic school, you have to do that. Okay. And we would study Latin, philosophy, the historical context of the Bible, what happened after the Holy Roman Empire, on and on and on. We weren't just reading the Bible. Then I go to Protestant, Baptist, non-denominational, whatever. I've been to kids programs of theirs with friends and things. That's not what they're doing. They're usually reading a dumbed down in the language and prose version of a Bible story that's made for children and takes out some of the meaning in the process sometimes. I remember I went to one and we watched Veggie Tales.
Yeah.
And coming as a guy that went to like had a Catholic education, we were reading and translating Latin verses from the textbook that had pictures of the original a manuscript that they have in the first Bible, essentially in the Vatican, which is in Latin, and we were translating that. That's what we would do. Or we would go to the monastery and do pilgrimages, right? And so when I go to and it really makes me understand Protestants a lot better, that I've seen kind of what they do, where it's like they have class where they say Jesus loves you very much, and there's actually some value in that. Because it is very effective on children. I find that Protestants who grow up that way love Jesus a lot more and a lot less maybe autistic about religion, because they're presented with less philosophical material early on.
Yeah, like I feel like a lot of Protestantism kind of, it's that way because it helped them grow. You know,
really effective at pushing the message, the core message of Christianity. I'm not going to ever deny that.
I think ultimately though, it's kind of failing in a lot of ways. Like it's vulnerable to just be kind of subsumed,
which it is. It's being, co-opted by, now there's basically LGBT Protestant, right?
Well, tell me this: where are the Calvinists? Right? Calvinists used to be the majority in America in its founding, and they're nowhere to be found. Well, the Calvinists now are all of like the woke kind of people, along with a lot of these other sects. So I wouldn't be surprised to see kind of the trend going away.
Well, yeah, Calvinists and progressivism have been tied at the hip since the inception of both.
Yeah.
But,
yeah,
but now there's no Calvinists, but there's still progressivism. It's like, yeah, they're the same people.
Yep. They're the same descendants, right? Calvinists and the Universalist Church as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this kind of thing. And I think it's specifically because of the lack of this sort of intellectual framework that goes back longer than just, the 100 years when your church was founded because some guy in 1910 had a different view on dancing.
Protestantism as it exists in America in its like many versions and sects really does work on a small scale, right? It's very, very effective organizing a rural community of a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
But as soon as it's the way Catholicism is effective is organizing it centrally. So the thing is pretty much, you go to a Catholic church, you know what to expect everywhere and anywhere. Like McDonald's. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I will posit that I think one advantage that a lot of Catholics probably don't think about in the US and why they're sort of more fervent in their beliefs here than they are in Europe and some of these other countries is because it's specifically not the state religion.
Right.
In fact, like there were some studies recently from what I've seen looking at birth rate and stuff that like countries that are Catholic actually are below a lot of the Protestant countries around them in terms of birth rate. And you might ask yourself why that might be. It's because like if everything is Catholic, then you're just kind of like a fish in the water.
Well,
you're kind of Catholic by birthright at that point, right? Whereas like in a country like America, Catholics are not the default, and everyone around them is not Catholic and feels that they're Catholic by birthright.
You're only Catholic if you're born into it.
Yeah.
Well, but Catholicism,
very few people convert as well. Like very few people convert to Catholicism.
Yeah, but you're different here is my point.
Yeah. It's an outgroup thing. And also it's an outgroup thing that unites, and this is historically true, many different like outsider populations that moved in as immigrants. This is true of the Polish, it's true of the Irish, it's true of now the Central and South Americans. Look, not gonna lie, being a Catholic guy, you have more in common with them in your neighborhood than if you're not. Just as a baseline. I mean, it's just a fact of life. They have
Well,
this, and this is the thing: is the Hispanic people around me don't like the gay stuff very much because they're deeply Catholic. Who knew? What a shock, right?
Yeah, well, what's interesting about Catholicism is, at least within the last few years, there really seems to be a split from what I've observed, because the
You're
Pope, for
lukewarm,
all
yeah.
the Pope, and we've talked about this before, at least in private. I think we've talked about it on the show, but I mean,
I'll
the
just say this:
Pope,
the
from what
Pope is
I've
not
heard,
as important as non-Catholics think to the daily life of a Catholic.
right? Well, no, you're right, and that is something I've learned. But like, also, it is interesting because now there is kind of like a split between, the
It's American Catholics and Rome, basically. That's the big
yeah,
split. And now,
and
but the Central and South American Catholics are starting to side with the American side, because what they don't like is him pushing the gay stuff. Now he says that they're going to bless gay unions. Well, that
yeah,
is for specifically, I mean, you can go to the catechism and you can look at the rules that the church has decided about this a very long time ago, in addition to looking at what it says in scripture, and it says it's an abomination. So how can then you person suddenly decide that you're going to override that? The idea that the Pope is God incarnate is something that Protestants
the
made up, by the way.
the point.
That's
No,
not
yeah,
real.
no, I realize that. I mean, I guess my only point was, at least from when I was growing up, it seemed like the Catholic Church was like a lot more unified as a whole, and now there seems to be a lot more of a split. At least
Because it
that's
was
a
a
lot.
lot higher trust. Like I said, these small
Yeah,
Protestant communities work well high trust, but when they pop up, in the next town over and have a different version of religion, they end up at odds with each other. Whereas if a Catholic church starts at the next town over, you're not going to be at odds with each other. And that's effective, and was why it spreads so well in Europe. And then all these immigrant populations came here that were primarily Catholic, and as like them being outsiders as immigrants, and I'm talking like early, I'm talking like I said, Polish in the 1800s, Catholic, Irish, Italians. Except, why do you think Italians and Irish and Portuguese all live next to each other up here? You think it's an accident?
no.
We all go to the same churches.
Yeah, I mean, and that's also why I think a lot of like the ball busting between Irish and Italians, that's all it is ball busting, because I mean, it's just
Well,
like team sports.
it's competing populations. It's the same reason, like, there's this old notion of like the racist Irish Boston people that hated black people, but what was really going on there, I think I've said this before on the show too, was they were trying to move the Irish population that had lived in South Boston for a very long time out, so that they could move these black people from the big inner cities in, just to do it, just to displace that, just because it was too white, essentially.
Yeah,
And so the Irish got mad, but also before that, you have to understand, they're both considered low class, right? They're both mostly in manual labor, and they were competing against each other for jobs and like where to live. And so black people and Irish people in the Boston area, for a while, there was a tense, but it's because they were an ethnic enclave next to another ethnic enclave, and they
yeah.
were both
Well,
trying to get the same jobs.
for a while, like the Irish were called like white N words.
Right.
You
And
know
that's
what?
another element I wanted to point out, is that the racists in Boston of the day would say Irish need not apply. Black people, sure.
Right.
Indians, sure. There were stores that would say you can bring a dog in, but don't bring an Irish in. That was in like the 1920s too.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So it wasn't that long ago. And yeah, so
Right.
that's why they developed these ethnic enclaves, and then they have this unified religion in Catholicism that's the same wherever you go. And that's why Catholicism gained a hold in a country that was actually founded to basically shit all over it. And now
Yeah.
it's one of the largest populations, and the president's a Catholic in theory. In theory, he's a Catholic.
Yeah,
Support for
and
abortion alone means he's not, but whatever. In theory, he's a
yeah.
Catholic.
Well, that's a lot of Democrats, too. So,
And that's the thing about Catholicism too, though. There's all different arguments, and people can square the circle however they like.
well,
You can have your
heck,
political beliefs and still be a Catholic and not feel like you are a contradiction, even though it's quite obvious that you are. And that's what some people don't like about it. But
well,
Man, as long as
it
the
is
fetus,
it's not a contradiction. I want to point this out because it's really important. Catholicism is not this big contradiction because we accept from the very beginning the philosophy of it is that we are fallen, wicked, and sinful.
Yeah.
And everything you do,
Yeah.
almost everything you do is a sin if you read the Old Testament. And that's why Catholics believe that way. And that's why Catholics feel guilty about shit. And you're already a sin. It's not the, I gotta commit. You're already a fucking sinner. You're already wicked. You're already vile and of this earth and despicable because of that. And the only way for you to achieve any semblance of redemption is to listen to what your God creator told you through his one begotten son, who he sacrificed to save you from yourself. It's not a complicated religion at all. Follow the rules to try and not sin, and you still have to do confess. You can think you're not a sinner, you still are. That's Catholicism. I find that Protestants get to be holy rollers because they think you can achieve a point of sinlessness in this world. That's not what the Bible says.
No, we're all fallen. We're all fallen.
Only Christ achieved that state.
Yeah.
He is the only sinless man. That is Catholic. And this is the thing. That's because they taught us, like I said, philosophy. The reason behind why you believe this. So when I left the Catholic Church, it was simply because I overthought things, okay? But it wasn't because I didn't understand their philosophy. They made it very understandable over 13 years?
Do you think you would go back now as like an older gentleman or
Well, I love church. What are you talking about? Church is fine. Yeah, no, there's no problem.
Well, I mean like as a practicing.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Okay.
No,
nothing.
And the interesting thing about Catholicism too, and this is part of the catechisms, like the ongoing debate. You cannot believe in Catholicism and still be a practicing Catholic too. As long if you do all the things and you understand what it means and you just don't believe, you still might get to go to heaven or at least purgatory. That's the other thing is Catholics have purgatory. And that solves a lot of problems. It sounds like a cop-out, but it solves a lot of problems.
No.
Think about like unbaptized babies. And in Protestant, the answer is they go to hell.
Yeah.
Right? And the Catholic answer is, well, maybe not quite that severe on the babies. You know,
No,
maybe
yeah.
not quite severe on the babies. There's still a lot of hellfire and brimstone in Catholicism, right? But they're like, the babies, they'll be all right. Also, the people who never heard the word of Christ. That's another important one.
Yeah.
That belief is that if you've never been given the chance to understand Christ, that you can still go to heaven if you're a good person.
Yeah.
Because that's not fair.
And that's something that like I'm not Catholic, but I always subscribe to, like, ever since I was a kid. So
I mean, it's hard. It's a hard education for a kid too. I was going to catechism when my friends were going out to the arcade on a Wednesday or a Friday or whatever. Like that's where I was Monday, Wednesday, Friday for many years for 3 hours.
See, and
people say I had Sunday school. Like when I say I have a Catholic education, but I didn't go to Catholic school, people would compare that to Sunday school. No. You went an hour on Sunday before church. It's not the same thing.
Right.
I went for 9 hours a week for like 13 years for like 8 months a year.
Yeah.
It was fucking nuts, man. And I had to do like, I met the Pope though, John Paul II, when I was a kid. He came here like one time. There is an actual picture of me shaking hands with the Pope. If somebody ever wanted to find it, you probably won't find it. And you probably won't know which one's me anyway, because I don't look the same for the most. Actually, I do. You'd see me right away. You'd be like, that's Max. Look at that big fucking Irish head. Just little baby Max shaking hands with the Pope. That happened.
Yeah.
And I didn't crap my pants when I met the Pope. My wife had headphones on. I want her to hear this. When I met the Pope and shook his hand, I didn't shit my pants.
No, you did not.
Well, that's right. And I was like a kid too, so it's an extra big bonus.
What's the significance of that supposed to be? Is there someone famous who?
The president shit his pants when he met the Pope. That. It's just Biden, so we forget the silly thing. No, he shit his pants when he shook hands with the Pope. I shook hands with the good Pope, John Paul II, and if you don't like that, fight me, bro. He was a good Pope.
Well, he was.
He ended communism. He was instrumental into the fall of the Soviet. He didn't end communism. Okay, that's a bit exaggerated, but he was instrumental to the fall of the Soviet Union.
I mean, he effectively did. He didn't end communism. He effectively ended communism's reign at the time.
That happens when you're born behind the Iron Curtain and you have some perspective in life, eh?
Well, yeah. It's also ironic that now the Pope, from what my Catholic friends tell me, is essentially a communist.
Yeah. He advocated communism openly.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of.
I'll say this, Sam. The sentiment I get on the ground from Catholics, and like I said, we have a monastery here. I've been around people who come from all over to come see the monastery. So Catholics, just Catholics, okay? That's the only reason they're there is they're Catholic. That's what unites them, okay?
Yeah.
They all basically have the opinion that if there's not going to be and also I listened to the radio show from the Archbishop of Boston. I think Shanahan. I listen to his radio show quite often. So you get a pulse of how Catholics are feeling, okay? If the next pope isn't American and of the American Catholic mindset, the American Catholics are probably going to like schism off from the church.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard too. It's
not represent. And that, by the way, this includes input from the Hispanic population.
Oh yeah.
It's not just white Irish Catholics, because in fact we're kind of a minority among Catholics now in this area. It's heavily Portuguese, Puerto Rican, Guatemalan, which is still Catholic, on and on.
Well,
this is the body of the church here now, and the body of the church here doesn't like the gay shit. That's exactly what it boils down to, Sam. And he just said he's going to bless gay marriages. I know for a fact that there are bishops, archbishops, and priests all over Massachusetts now who are willing to openly defy the Pope on this.
Good.
Yeah, they're not going to bless same-sex marriages. There are some that will do it, but I know for a fact that there are people all the way up to archbishop who are just going to say no.
Look,
what's he going to do? Is he going to excommunicate half the fucking body of the church?
He might.
Good. Then they're going to have their own church. That's why they say they might leave the church, because they might have to by necessity. Also, the Latin masses and the foreign language masses. I know we've talked about this before, but that's really fucking important to people.
Yeah. Look, no, and I just want you to understand, I'm not bashing Catholicism as a whole.
No, I don't think so.
I'm simply making an observation that within my lifetime, I've seen the church go from like super unified to now,
And then
you
think
know,
about it from
there's
within the
going to be a
church,
split.
right? You can see that as obvious as a fucking light on your face outside the church, right?
Yeah.
Well, inside the church, it feels like it's those of us who have kind of old school, traditional trad cath, I guess you could say, beliefs. That's why you see a lot of radical trad caths.
Yeah.
Because they feel under attack from all sides, including within the church. The church itself is attacking its most traditional wing. What do they do at that point? It's I see why a lot of them spurg out, and then you have like obvious like honey traps like Fuentes pretending to be that's a whole different.
Yeah, although to be fair, like I do know some Catholics who have like messaged me and they've said like, "Hey, thanks for pointing out Fuentes' stupidity because he's an idiot and he doesn't speak for, us."
He doesn't really
So,
speak for anybody. That's the thing
no.
in terms of the Catholic population of this country. The Catholic population of this country would mostly make him sick because they're diverse or whatever.
Well,
They are very
and
diverse. That's how it is, man.
and because they like women too. So
That's
there's
true.
that.
Yeah, Catholics actually do enjoy fucking. Little known fact. That's why they have so many kids
Yeah.
on average. Also, condoms aren't allowed. So what are you gonna do? Every sperm is sacred, as the old Monty Python bit goes. That's true.
Yeah.
If every sperm is sacred, if a sperm is wasted, God gets quite irate. Yeah, that's go look that up. Every sperm is sacred. It's a old bit from Monty Python. If you haven't seen it, it's fucking hilarious, and it's kind of true. That's the Catholic mindset. If you're coming, you should make a baby, or at least be trying to. You
Monty
guys,
Python
this is why I advocate no fat, bro. If you're coming and you're not trying to make a baby, God gets mad at you. I'm telling you. I'm a minister. You can trust me. Ordained. 13 years.
Yes. Yes. So we've heard.
You need to be coming in your loving wife, not your hand, you heathen.
Come on now.
Girlfriend is acceptable.
Oh, I said, come on now. I thought you guys would laugh.
Yeah. God makes it very clear if you read scripture that if one single drop of your bodily fluid should hit the ground, surely
he killed a guy.
Yeah, he killed a guy for that.
Yeah, he was supposed to fuck his his brother's wife. Long story short, all right, and he pulled out, and so God killed him.
Yeah, on the spot. Dead.
Morpheus says
pulling out
in the belly.
Think about that, gentlemen. Pulling out, God instantly kills you for.
Well,
get you a wife. Get you a wife.
Shoot, shoot. Then a lot of my friends ought to be dead. So
see, me too, probably at some point in my life. I don't know, but
what if?
Yeah. You're supposed to create children in the loving matrimony of marriage. Don't you know that? You're not supposed to come in a fucking sock, you fucking weirdo.
Now, is it better to come in a whore or on the floor?
A whore.
Yeah.
Objectively, it's better to come in a whore with the potential that you knock her up. That's what the Bible says.
That's what Morpheus just said.
Yeah, but he didn't rhyme because he's not as cool as I am.
But Morpheus is pretty cool though. He's a based cripple man,
bro, popping off. Can we go back and take a look at some chat? These people didn't pay us, and we should read their chat anyway.
Because he said, and I quote Morpheus, "Better in the belly of a whore than on the ground," which doesn't fucking rhyme. So what I said was, "Is it better in the belly of a whore or on the floor?"
Yeah, he's right though. Either way,
mine's better.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do we got here? Apex. I wanted to read Apex Gamma came by. I don't know if he's still listening, but he said, "Hope you all had a Merry Christmas chat with a heart." And Sammy, get a new camera. The kids looking sharp. Merry Christmas to Apex as well. Obviously, the former co-host of the show and good friend. And
Yeah,
then
who
a
hope
bunch of Morpheus, and then MAGA News Network says this luck guy can't walk on like Sam. We talked about that. Morpheus said, "Fuck rhyming." What do you think about that, Shmuley?
I think he's a little bitch, and he's jealous that he can't rhyme.
Morpheus also said CCD. That's what we call Catholic education. I didn't use that term. I say catechism.
Yeah.
But whatever. Was a pain in the dick Wednesday evenings growing up, but looking back, it's given me my core values. Yeah, admittedly, I went to longer ones than a lot of people. They had me signed up for. That's how it was. It's because we got the monastery over here and shit. But yeah, at the very least, it's going to be like 3 or 4 hours once a week for most of your education. You get your confirmation. I was in like 11th grade, so basically like a junior. So okay, I didn't do that one last year of senior, as it's CCD kind of. It's a grind. But
Anyway,
like you said,
I've heard.
it's given him his core values. That's true of me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I can respect that. So,
We did a lot of philosophy, a lot of study, a lot of introspection, and these are things. It's like I said, these are just things I noticed that I don't see a lot of from like Baptist or evangelical or non-denominational churches. And it's like I said, I think that their way of talking to children is better at getting children to accept and understand the core message quicker. But in the long run, I think it's less fulfilling, and it leads to a less like introspective view on religion, which seems to be what's missing from a lot of people. I feel like that's me, man. I'm not material. You know what I got for Christmas was some clothes, and that's what I mostly said. If you get me anything, but I said get me nothing. Because I'm just not a materialistic guy. I said, spend your money on my kid.
I got some clothes too. That was actually one thing I wanted to ask while everyone was here. What did everyone get for Christmas?
I know, and I was thinking the same thing. Like everybody could talk of Christmas, and then we got lost in conversation. Well, we could do the bit now, right? What'd you get, Sam? How was your Christmas overall? I know you had a special gift for your grandma. You should talk about that too. That was a good one.
Well, my Christmas overall was pretty good.
It's a great way to segue into a plug too. A heartwarming plug.
She gifted me it was actually an early Christmas present, but she gifted me some writing software from the good folks at Atticus.io. Not a sponsor of the show, but I want to plug them anyway because they make great
something you legitimately use and like, which is even better.
I mean, listen, if the folks at Atticus.io wanna, throw a couple bucks, please, but by all means, we'll throw the banner in the show notes by all means. But I was able to reformat Shadows of Deception and make it a little tidier as far as the formatting goes. So that's what I got from my grandmother, and in turn I gave her a copy of the reprint signed for her Christmas present.
Which the book is dedicated to her audience, which is really nice as well, because she gifted Sam a great gift as a child, which was a gift of love of reading, apparently, which seems like that's the person to dedicate a book to when you write one, huh? That's a beautiful story. I just wanted to, make sure we got that one out there, because there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, but that's a very nice story.
Well, and she's also 89, and she's in really good health. I want to make that clear. I don't think she's
89 years young. Yeah.
I don't think she's going to pass away anytime soon, but a lot of people, they dedicate books to family members after they've passed away, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to dedicate the
It's
book
nice
to her
for her
while
to know how much you appreciate her.
yeah, I wanted to dedicate the book to her while she was still alive. And when I gave her the first book in June, which I have, let's see, I've never done this before. I have both copies. Someone actually asked me this. Hold on. This one is the first edition, which is a bit thicker.
Which is a nice cover. It's not that it wasn't good, right? But you had the chance to do it over again, and I do like what you came out with in the second one.
So this is the newer edition, which, by the way, this kind of noir style is going to be the kind of, I guess, the
picture reflects the original picture in a lot of ways anyway, right? It kind of has the same vibe.
Yeah. Well, and this is going to be kind of the style going forward in future
I like
books,
it because it looks kind of like the font and everything reminds me of like the old dime store novels. I may be dating myself a little.
No, that it's funny you bring that up because that's essentially what novellas are. They're essentially dime store novels.
Yeah, they're just pulp novels.
Yeah, and
which is what you've been
essentially
making
what
because it's not like it's a 500-page slog. It's a short novel that,
right.
Honestly, I read it in one night.
Yeah, no, I read
fast though.
I mean,
some people it would take them a couple of days, but it's not something that will take you a month.
My friend Eric Bishop actually wrote a dime store novel too. Here, Ransomed Daughter, and yes,
nice.
I do keep these 3 books on my desk.
Sure.
And yeah, yeah, I mean, so it was
my boy got his Godzilla, and he got a TV from not even a family member, some old lady who's friends with his grandmother.
Oh, that's sweet. And then I also you might remember my folks were in Italy for 2 months, and I got some really nice handmade dress shirts.
Nice.
Or I guess one of which I'm wearing.
There you go.
So that was nice. And then just because my stepdad and I had kind of have a quirky sense of humor, he got me this really nice bottle opener in the shape of a tie. So and I gave him back his bottle opener today, which I was keeping in my drawer. So
yeah, I basically got clothes. I got a pair of shoes, and the one thing that was very nice actually was my mother-in-law gave me and my wife each a mug, and they were basically my father-in-law's 2 favorite mugs. And the one I got is his Santa mug, which was his like all-time favorite because he collected Santa stuff. Yes, even his house was full of Christmas stuff year-round. He was that guy. He loved he collected Santa stuff, and he called them his ho-hos.
Oh, that's funny. And you mentioned you got joy from gifting your son that Godzilla. Well, I got joy from gifting my mom Elon Musk's biography. If you think I'm an Elon Musk stan or simp, which I admittedly am, she is even more so, and she's one of those people where she's notoriously hard to buy for.
Yep.
So when Elon's biography came out, I immediately knew that I had to get it, but it was sold out, so I had to wait until October to get it for her, and because I knew if I waited, it would sell out for the holidays, and sure enough, it did. And the smile that she got that she had on her face when she opened it, that in and of itself was a gift. Just the smile. So, Morpheus says, I got joy from gifting my mom a car / portable pistol safe. Based. And Morpheus also says that he got a Blue Yeti mic, which I would.
And he's getting on this show with us, and a Lego Fender strap
Yes.
build set. The Lego strap build set. I saw him post that picture. That's pretty cool. I like that. As a bit of a guitar guy, I kind of like that.
And Morpheus, I would actually show my Yeti that I have, because it's out here on my desk. But needless to say, it's so heavy that yeah, it's hard to lift one of those things. So.
And he got joy from gifting his mom a car / portable pistol safe. My stepfather is very is capitalized anti-gun, so I got double joy. Based.
Yeah.
Gotta piss off people. Just the little subtle ways that you can for your own amusement sometimes.
Yeah. Thankfully, everyone in my household mostly agrees on stuff. So, except there's one relative who is like, Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie. So of course I had to troll that person by insisting that Die Hard is not only a Christmas movie, but it's the best Christmas movie ever made. So
there you go.
Um,
I've always believed that A Clockwork Orange is a Christmas movie.
I'm not. Is there a Christmas scene in there? I can't remember.
Yeah, there's snow in one scene, so it's a Christmas movie.
Fair enough.
Anything can be a Christmas movie if you watch it on Christmas.
Well,
right. Sorry.
Well, I'm not. I mean, I'm not sure that like A Clockwork Orange is the like.
Oh, I remember what I wanted to bring up, Sam. I remember.
Yes,
it was a whole big fucking can of worms, and I'm glad that it's just us because they'd probably get be weirded out. But there's this whole merch scam. Have you heard about this with like the big creators and Revolt?
Yes. Also, real quick before you go on that, I wanted to point out you posted something in our Gilded about like Javier Mealy posting the Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, that's why I thought of that. He was he had a baseball bat in like a Clockwork Orange pose, and he was doing a Kubrick stare, which, by the way, means that person is spiraling into insanity if they do a Kubrick stare.
Yeah,
which is pretty based, but it is kind of cringe. It's both, right? It can be both. I
like
it. Since we're doing Clockwork Orange, Morpheus said, but is the movie taking place during the Christmas season, Max? Actually, because there is fucking 8 years when he's in prison, right? So it takes place over the course of a decade. So there's like 10 Christmas seasons. So it's 10 times a Christmas movie over. But yeah, he said he watched CoffeeZilla. I knew CoffeeZilla was doing a big thing on this. So there's this merch company, Revolt, and it's basically just like the CEO spent all his money on essentially hookers and blow. I think it was like fancy restaurants and private jets or whatever. And he didn't pay any of the people that he did merch for, and they didn't even fulfill a lot of the orders, essentially, is the scam. And then they were upcharging vendors more than cost. And I think that's an interesting wrinkle to me because a lot of people don't realize this. Now, Sam, you like music, right? Have you noticed that band merchandise, maybe you don't go to a lot of concerts, but band merchandise is so much more expensive now, not even in track with inflation than it was before the pandemic.
It's funny that you say that because while I might not go to a lot of concerts, I do tend to go online and try and shop like and support bands I like online. And even that without like just basic prices on like t-shirts and whatnot, that's expensive.
So they're
Like
already
I
fighting
understand
inflation.
market, but like
And actually, that's the irony I can get to there is that's the best way to actually support the band is what you're doing, buying online. So what's happened recently, I follow like the music industry to some degree. Ronnie, I think it's Ronnie Radke. He's in a band. I don't remember the name of them. It's one of those modern metal bands that I'm just kind of not familiar with. It's not even that I'm not a fan. But he did something interesting. He went up on stage at the Armory in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and he said he was the headlining band of the card, right? And he said, I don't have merchandise tonight. I know a lot of you guys noticed. The reason for that is because the venue wanted a 25% cut of the merchandise, and that's on top of the cut from the supply chain, and that's on top of the cut from the people transporting the merchandise, and that's on cut from the people producing the merchandise, and that's on cut from, and on and on and on. And so at the end of the day, a lot of these artists that are selling band t-shirts, you might think to yourself, holy shit, $60 for a t-shirt. They have to do that. They have to do that because the venue right off the bat takes $15. Right off the bat, the venue for nothing, for just being there. Now, that's not entirely true, right? I was never like a tour manager or anything, so I don't know all the ins and outs of how that works.
right.
But I've seen, I've dealt with like the merch guys and stuff, and it's a lot of moving stuff around. You got to clear stuff. There's all these hurdles, and then each venue's different. Another thing you might not know, do you know about price matching? This is an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so basically a headline band on the tour is going to set the merch prices for their merchandise that gets sold, right? And so let's say they set $45 a t-shirt and $60 for a hoodie, right? And let's say you're the opening band and nobody really knows who you are, you're getting your feet under you might not even have a record out yet or whatever, and if they hear you want them to buy your merch, and you just have 10 t-shirts. So let's say you want to sell those 10 t-shirts at $15 a pop. The main tour manager or someone from the band is going to say, hey, bro, you have to price match. You have to sell your shit for the same price that we sell our shit for. Why? Because you're undercutting us. So essentially the headline bands want their shirt to get sold the most. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently, right? It's their tour. It's their house, their rules. But what they're saying is that you selling it at $15, they're worried that a guy's going to come and buy 2 of your shirts instead of one of theirs. You're undercutting them, right? Now, that sounds silly if you think about it for a second, because you didn't come there to see the fucking opening act, right? And a lot of times people are willing to pay a couple extra bucks for a tour t-shirt because they know it goes mostly to the band, right? In fact, merchandise, the best way to support any band you like is not subscribe to Spotify, not fucking buy their albums, but actually buy their merchandise, and specifically at their tour. So when these tour companies and venues are, because there's tour companies on top of it, there's companies that are taking the 25-30% cut. So when you think about it, at the end of the day, this band, and the reason I bring it all back to the scam with these Mr. Beast and all these other creators, and CoffeeZilla made a video on it, the scam that they're doing on the t-shirts is nothing compared to what the average music industry is doing with the tour band t-shirts. And the person they're hurting the most is all these bands that tour for a living. A lot of people think that the music industry is full of like these rich rock stars, and you might be right if you're talking about the radio #1 single guys, okay? But a lot of metal bands in particular, and rock bands now, their margin for living is not exactly great, especially if you're in a younger band and you're just getting started out. And by making them price match like that, they can't even sell those $15 t-shirts. Whereas if they did that, they might take home a couple $100 to pay their rent. Now
Yeah.
they're going to sell 2 or 3 t-shirts at $45, and maybe they get a higher per sale, but they're going to get less sales. And usually the bulk of sales is how they make the merchandise in these opening no-name bands, because you're hoping, this is what it is. You're hoping that you performed a good enough concert as the opener that they'll go buy your t-shirt, because they've never heard of you in most cases.
Well, no,
and if your t-shirt
it's
costs
like
the same as the main band, right? Why don't you just buy the main band? You already paid like $80 to go see that. The ticket prices. We can do ticket prices on a whole episode. I'll get into how they're screwing you on ticket prices now, and that you shouldn't be going to these live events at all. And really, if you want to support bands, just buy their merch online. Don't go to these mega concerts that they throw anymore, because they're fucking everybody. The ticket holders, the fucking bands, everybody. It's just an absolute mess. But just the merch sale stuff, it's actually really difficult to have like a decent merch distribution line for a band that moves the fucking product. That's the tough part, to have it at the shows. So Ronnie said, Ronnie Redka from God, I feel bad that I don't know his band name. But he said, we're not selling merch tonight at all. If you want to buy a tour shirt, you can go to the website. You'll get it a lot cheaper, because they're taking 25%. 25% is extortionate, essentially, is what he said. And he said, fuck the venue. Fuck you. We'll never play here again. On and on and on. Now, is 25% extortionate? Yes, it actually is. But would it surprise you to know that the average rate, give or take, is 20? A venue takes 20% on average from every band at every show?
That wouldn't surprise me at all. But yeah, I mean,
and from the gate as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, as you know, I've friends who are in the indie, music scene. Even with them, venues, rip them off on merch and whatnot.
Which is literally that's like ripping the heart of your income for any indie musician or midstream. Like there's mainstream, like Jay-Z's not worried about this problem. Fucking, you know what I mean? The big people aren't, but like the midstream, the people that you might have heard of, like bands that on the radio, are struggling.
Yeah, no. Well, it's funny you bring this up, because my friend Eric, during our interview, he brought up that he's friends with guys from the band Shinedown, and Shinedown is a pretty well known band, but
they make
yeah,
I'm not shitting on Shinedown. They make a good living, but they're one of those bands that if you screwed them for an entire tour on their merch sales, their kids would have a shittier Christmas. They're not rich.
Yeah, no. That's specifically why bringing them up is because they are a really good band.
They have mortgages, not mansions. You know. Most musicians who do that as a career are what you might consider working class. And I know that's hard for people to kind of grasp, because like the allure of the rock stars, but it's at the end of the day, it's like a fun job, but it's a job. And it's a job that not everybody gets to be the CEO of, right?
Well, that's the same thing with authors in the field that I'm in. Like people, like
it's like Stephen King makes a lot of money, but your average guy doesn't make nearly that, not even remotely.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Like people think that I get signed in onto Simon and Schuster. I'm Mr. Moneybags. I've got money rolling in. No.
Sometimes people lie about being signed to Penguin, but that's a whole different thing.
There's that too.
But the funny part is, in regards to Penguin, right? They just kind of had a lawsuit around the same time that whole thing happened that I mentioned. And Penguin, it came out in the lawsuit that 90% of the authors signed with Penguin Publishing sell less than 12 books.
Right.
Yeah. a lot of the artistic field is the starving artist, but then there's, because people always see it like that. There's the starving artist and the absolute rock star. But most of the industry is like techs, studio musicians, sound guys, merch guys, tour guys, band members who have been in 15 different bands, or they fill in for famous bands like tour musicians, right? You know about tour musicians? That's a tough job a lot of time.
Oh yeah, it
It's a
is.
really tough job. Sometimes it'll be you're a tour musician for a band that doesn't have a band. Kid Rock's a good example of that, right? He'll pick up a bunch of tour musicians. Does he pick the same guys a lot of the time? Yeah, he does,
Yeah.
right? But if you're that tour musician, you ain't making Kid Rock money. He takes care of his people. I'm not saying he doesn't, but it's still almost like you're like upper middle class. You're not wealthy. You make a
Yeah,
good
I
living.
mean,
But it gets cut into real easily because this year Kid Rock ain't going out on tour, and now the that one country band that you play with 50 times before, they're not out on tour, and so what band can I get in? And maybe then you get in with this band that needed a fucking guitarist, but it turns out they don't like your style, and so halfway through the tour you go home, and at the end of the year you don't have as much money this fucking year, and that's the average struggle of most of the music industry.
well, and that's why, and we can talk about this now. We're here on Rumble. I mean, COVID. I hate to, Sam, why are you still talking about COVID? COVID was devastating for people in the
Indie
music
band,
industry
indie
because
rock, wrestling, just almost in general. It got to the point WWE was in trouble.
yeah, and it even killed
any live entertainment, theaters are closing left
comedy.
and right. Comedy, yeah, everything. But now a lot of the people are basically like, we now know that because we were closed for so long, we can gouge up the price. This is why they're charging more for renting halls for shows. They're charging more for supposed damages. If you let them handle your merch, so there's two kinds of merch you can sell as a band at a venue, right? There's where you guys handle it yourselves, self-sell, and then there's venue sell, where the venue, they have their concession stands built in and you just put your merch over there. When you do the venue sell, 25% becomes like 40, right? And that's on top. Again, to get this stuff to a venue, to get your equipment to a venue, to get your people to a venue, you have truck drivers that you've hired. You have techs. You have engineers. You have sound guys. You have a guy whose whole job is to carry your Merc boxes out of a truck and bring them in at every fucking stop. That guy's getting paid too. And he's getting paid on your dime because he's your roadie.
Yeah.
The industry is fucking brutal, man. It's actually fucking brutal.
So getting back to this gaming thing though, because someone asked in chat, like, how does this relate to YouTube?
Because it's a merch problem across the board. That's what this company is.
Oh,
That's what I'm trying to say. This Revolt company is doing that too. They're putting their own costs, marking up the costs, and they're doing essentially nothing. They're not moving. That's why I wanted to point out all the different things you have to account for as a band. They're supposed to be doing all of that, this Revolt company. And instead, not only did they not do all that, they're stiffing people on the money that they actually earned on sales. They're just saying, we don't have any money.
I mean, I know it's not
Sam. We're talking, Sam, to the tune of like, I believe it's like $14 million total that we know of.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And that's just the people willing to talk on or off the record with CoffeeZilla and some other guys, because he wasn't the first to cover this. He's the first to do a big YouTube video on it, though. And he's usually really thorough about it. But yeah, they're jacking up the price on all this merch. And they're jacking up the prices internally as well. So they're actually charging Mr. Beast and all these people more, and then not delivering, and then not paying them. So they take a huger cut to start with, but then they never pay you. So they took all your money in the end anyway. I guess that's the only difference between them and all these like gouging promoters. And another one, don't go buy your favorite band's merchandise at Walmart. You know how much they get off of that? Zero. It's usually a bootleg. It's not real. It's not
Yeah.
official and endorsed. And even if it is, you're not seeing a cent off of it.
Yeah, no, I
If you want to support a band, buy their t-shirt directly from their website or when they're on tour. Because if they have merch on tour, it's because they want you to buy it. And even if the venue is taking like a criminally over the top cut, it's still the best money they're getting. So if you want to help a band, that's the way to do it. And I would say the same with a YouTuber, except here you have a problem, is that now they're merch distributor, because this is a way a lot of YouTubers make their money now, right? And we've been saying from the beginning, we'd rather sell you something than just sit here and be like, oh, please, merch it out for fucking donations. Not that you can't super chat in or whatever, but we're not, the primary focus is you selling a book. So it's like merchandise sales is the way that these online creators can sell their money, and they can't even trust the distribution methods at all. And that's a pretty tough situation.
Yeah.
Spring sucks. Teespring kind of sucks, but here's the thing. Teespring will at least follow through on your orders.
Yeah. And that is one thing I
pay you. They'll pay you.
Yeah, I did use Teespring a while ago up until they banned one of my designs. For whatever reason, I don't know. It was original, but no, I mean that's the other thing too. Is like a lot of people they think they make a lot of money off of ad revenue, but in reality, you only make like 3 cents.
Yeah. The entertainment business is a business, and you got to find the ways to run it properly, right? And a lot of people get into this, and it's great to have a service that provides merch stuff for you like that, right? But what it basically amounted to is this one guy running the company took advantage of a bunch of people that don't know how to run their business and said, I'll run your business for you, and took all their money.
Yeah.
Be very careful if they're going to run your business for you, especially with merch sales. I've seen, and this is why I have to relate it to the music industry, because it's the closest I have, right, to tell you about all the predatory things that go on. But I've seen people get stiffed on their merch money. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
A venue owner, when you do a venue sell, just decides for the night he ain't giving you your cut. What are you going to do about it? You're the fucking opening band. You're not even on the tour. They hired you for this one fucking show in this one city because it's where you're from. What are you going to do about it, tough guy?
Not much.
Right.
Nothing you can do.
Also, the owner of the venue is like, I mean, nobody says it, but everybody knows he's tied to the mob. What are you going to do? You take the fucking L.
Well,
that's the life of a fucking indie band. And I hate that that's basically what's going on with creators on other platforms too now, is the merch people. They don't have to be the actual mob. They're still going to steal your fucking money.
Well, and folks, like a lot of people ask, like, why haven't we put out merch yet? Part of it is we may be a little lazy, but another part of it is we actually want to find like a good merch distributor, if that's even possible.
It's tough. I'll tell you, it's really tough, because a lot of the ones like Teespring, it has the benefit of they will deliver, but it has the downside of that their merch is terrible. Their t-shirts are like poorly made.
Yeah, and
I think that our fans don't want something that's gonna rub off if they fucking pay for it. But at the same time, the one like maybe because the people listening at this point, we've been talking for almost 3 hours, would be maybe the people interested in the merchandise. So let me tell you the fucking dilemma. All right, gentlemen, is that what's your price range? How about that? Leave a comment if you're hearing this and you're interested in buying merch. I'll tell you, here's some options. If we go with Teespring, I can get them under $20. You can have a Whitfield Report shirt, but when you wash that bitch, it's gonna start fading off. Okay, it'll be cheap though, and it'll put money in Sam's pocket, and maybe it'll be 20. It's like $15 at cost, and we'll maybe put $5 towards Sam, right? right? Because that's the whole point, is to make a profit. So we'll try and get them to you at like a $20, price point, right? But then your shirt's gonna fall apart, and you're gonna be like, "This was a fucking waste of money." Alternatively, okay, we could go with something a little more premium. Okay, but you're gonna pay more for a shirt, and it's not even gonna be like, Sam will still get that same $5 cut, but the shirt's gonna cost 40, but it'll be a nice shirt. That's the dilemma that we face. So would you guys rather look at the $20 range for a t-shirt or the $40 range for a good t-shirt? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and like, comment, and subscribe.
Yes, and please unironically let us know.
Yeah, no, because I'm dead serious. That's the holdup. I might as well just level with them. If they're listening now, they're like our most loyal fans, right? I'm telling you right now, the dilemma about Merc for me has been, do we want the $20 shitty t-shirt that's going to fall apart on you, but you can more afford it, because we're not trying to ask you to spend $1 million fucking dollars on some shit to support the show, right? We live in goddamn Biden economy. But on the other hand, the $40 or $45, it might even be $45, I'm not going to lie, t-shirt will get delivered to you, is guaranteed, will be of higher quality, but it's going to be expensive. And that's $45, by the way, for the shirt before tax and before shipping and handling. So how do I drop that bomb on the audience? I just kind of didn't make a decision. So yeah, if you have feedback on that, let me know.
Well, and listen, everything Max is saying, I can co-sign. And look, I've talked to.
We have shirt designs. We have shirt designs.
Well, and I've also asked like people on Twitter, like,
what I was gonna do with the shirt design, Sam, is that when we finally decided on a distributor in the price point, I was gonna have them vote on Twitter or whatever. Here's all the designs that we got, top 2 get in or whatever.
Yeah.
And because I think it would be important for us to just have like 1 or 2 t-shirt designs rather than a whole slew of them.
Right.
At least at first.
Yeah.
And so that was the plan, and I was going to show everybody. My wife has made some that I've kept on file. I have some ideas for shit. We were going to have a whole bunch, and then we were even going to ask for user submissions and have a poll. But it's tough to decide whether is it reasonable for us to ask them to pay $20 for something that I personally think is of poor quality, or almost $50, and probably after shipping and tax over $50.
Well, the other thing too, like for me, is like I've asked.
The book is such a good fit, guys, because it's under $20. You can get the book, right? We're trying to be. We understand, like we're not the most important thing in your life. And if we are, you should turn it off now. Go find Jesus or something.
After the show is done, though, turn the program off after the show is done. No, but like this thing is still $10, and
right.
but also it's like the cover is actually like solid. The paper is actually like solid. I mean, it's a book, but still, it's like
a quality book, right, of a certain standard. And that's what I'm saying. I did a run, and this is why I have this problem, Sam, is I did a run of t-shirts, you may remember, for Internet Scumbag. And
no.
Oh, yeah, I have one still over here somewhere, my Internet Scumbag.
Yeah, I remember.
Shirt. But the problem is it immediately faded off, and as soon as I got it, I only wore it once, which you wouldn't wear Internet Scumbag in public generally anyway, so it's not that big a deal. That wasn't why I bought it, right? That wasn't why I had the shirt made. I had the shirt made so that people would send them to Dave and Ethan Ralph, and they did, so that's funny. But they fell apart. They were cheap. And I don't know if people are willing to pony up the money for a Whitfield Report related t-shirt. I would hope that it would be something they could wear more than once.
Well, that's the whole thing too. Is like,
and also something they can wear in public. We're very aware of that. We're not going to make a design that like embarrasses you. Trust me.
Well, no, that's the whole thing. Is like I've talked to people and they're like, yeah, we would actually, rep the show like out in public. So yeah, like we've got we've got like college age kids who would wear their shirts on campus. The
And
thing
that's
is
dope. And that's why I think like I want quality, but
yeah,
I have to level with the audience as honest as possible. If you want quality, it's gonna cost a bit for a t-shirt, and $50+
it
might be a bit much for a t-shirt. It certainly would be on my edge, right?
if listen,
And I
listen,
buy
if no
band
one
t-shirts, and that's still kind of a lot.
listen, if no one actually wanted to wear the t-shirt, like if it was just like, we'll support the show and then it'll just be my cheap work shirt, or
Yeah.
house, then by all means I would say, okay, let's just do the cheap shirt. But no,
But if
yeah.
if the only point is to support the show, just send a super chat for the same amount.
Yeah.
I want you guys. That's the point. We want you guys to get something for your money, and we also. I don't speak for Sam, but I don't necessarily want to promise we'll read each and every super chat because we've already missed tons of them from like MAGA News Network over the year.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, Rumble. That is one thing. Is Rumble has
contributor, except it's him and then Morpheus, I think, on Rumble.
yeah.
Like, sometimes we just don't see the chat.
Well, that is the one feature that like I guess YouTube has is like you can actually I guess YouTube they like collect the super chats so you can actually like see them like for a bit. Whereas
Morpheus says he'd be good with 40 to 50 for a t-shirt. Wouldn't be the first time. That's good to know. It's tough though where you price these things, and it's also where do you draw the line, and like, am I gonna sell people fucking shit?
yeah.
I want to be the guy that sells shitty t-shirts, especially when everybody's gonna know that's my fault, right? You don't have a shop set up, so everybody's gonna know that it's the producer's fault, right? And I'm just gonna be, and I've been talking about it, so I don't want them to be shitty.
Right.
I want to deliver for the fan base because we've had a great year, and going into the next year, there's gonna be t-shirts. I'll tell you that there's gonna be t-shirts in Q1 at some point.
I do want to say this for the audience though
I think
too.
I said that last year about summer too, but I promise this time. That's my New Year's resolution, ladies and gentlemen. There will be t-shirts, even if we go with the cheap shit. I probably won't.
Hey,
I probably can't bring myself to foist that upon the audience.
I do want to address this for the audience too. Because a few of you did buy the book as like a last minute Christmas present, and for that I'm very thankful. Unfortunately, I also am sorry that some of you guys waited till the last minute, and Amazon was not able to fulfill your order. And if you're one of those people,
you went beyond the last minute.
That is not my fault. If you ordered a book on Christmas Day or no Christmas Eve and was expecting it to arrive on Christmas Day, no one's shipping.
You have to
on
understand their
Eve.
print to order.
Yes.
Right. And yeah, I guess we should apologize for any confusion, obviously, but yeah, they are print to order. They print yours specifically for you. So if you thought you were going to order it at 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve and have it under your tree in the morning, I regret to inform you that's not possible.
I mean, yes, but for anyone who ordered on Christmas Eve, you should have either received your order today or should be, also, I don't handle, I can't actually see anyone's credit card info or whatnot. So if for some reason your credit card expired or like, went over a limit or something, which, some people do during the holidays, take that up with Amazon. So,
all right.
I'm just letting people know because I got some strange messages
Because you're
about that
you're
type
not
of
the
thing.
distributor of any of this. That's not how it works. Amazon, you wrote the book, you submit the book, and then they handle all that back end stuff. You don't have a hand in any of it.
Yeah. I do appreciate people reaching out to me to let me know about these issues. I really do appreciate that, but and
But there's not
for
much you
things
can do.
like so I did check in to Amazon. Like, I did message them, and they pretty much told me what we just told you. So yeah.
The one T-shirt I was thinking that wouldn't maybe be acceptable to wear in public, and I want to gauge your reaction on this, would be just hashtag pussy smoke. And then on the back it says the Whitfield Report, and all
See,
and stuff.
like I like that, because that would be like one that would like start conversations like, what is, and then people would look up the hashtag, and hopefully they would find a link to our show and not other things on.
What do you think of the concept I just gave for a T-shirt? Okay, on the front it just says hashtag pussy smoke, and on the back it says the Whitfield Report and all of our socials. Her head is in her hands right now. I'm not sure what that means.
I
hate that I ever
see, like,
She said, I hate that I ever said that, because she's now imagining the concept of that being on a T-shirt, and the fact that we had a PhD engineer on to discuss the dynamics of it.
But like, that was one of our best episodes too.
That was one of our best episodes. Morpheus says he'd rep that shit.
Yeah, but like, Morpheus also,
That's why I said two designs, right? One design can be the offensive pussy smoke, sure to grab somebody's attention, and then we'll have its design that you could wear in public and not embarrass you.
I have a third design that that I think would be funny, but it would be a super meta kind of joke too.
Just gay porn. I was thinking of that too. We would just put
no,
gay porn on the T-shirt, because that's something that comes up on the show.
No, but
no, I didn't mean actual porn. I meant the words gay porn, and then the Sam Whitfield.
Not too dissimilar to that. The thought I had would be,
I got one. Want 100K? Go gay for pay.
No, I had a thought. It's a design idea of the Obama Hope poster. Okay. So I had an idea where it's a picture of you shaking your finger, and it just says Jesus is watching.
I do tend to point at the audience a lot, but they need it. Somebody should. Do you know how effective I can be with just the finger point and the dad voice? I make other people's kids listen.
I bet you do.
They're like,
yeah,
oh, shit. He ain't fucking. He got the finger going. Yeah. That's all it takes, by the way, gentlemen. If you want to be a good father, you need your you need to practice that. You need to have it at the right pitch and level of seriousness, and you need to be able to project it very far. If you can do that, every child in the vicinity will stop and look and wonder if they're in trouble.
I do that to my younger siblings on occasion, actually, and it works. They're still young enough that it actually does like.
Oh, it works. If you got the base and if you've got the confidence, it works on fucking full grown men, dude.
Well, yeah.
Also, if you're a big hairy giant, I suppose that helps.
Well, I
Women
mean,
too. Man, when I use my dad voice on like cat ladies, it
I-
cuts to the center of their being. They hate that so much.
ha-
That's the antidote to cat ladies is dads.
so I'm curious. This is kind of off topic, but what do you think of that whatever podcast that like is super clickbaity and whatnot?
Yeah, that's what I think is like. At first, they used to do. Now they do OnlyFans girls, right? But at first, they used to just pick up hoes at the club, and of course, a bunch of hoes are gonna say hoish shit and be like, and have these dumb, and they're not picking. They cherry pick the women who are already stupid, and then people are like, well, they make them look stupid. No, they make themselves look stupid because they're
Yeah.
stupid. Because these guys are picking on just stupid women, and I don't find it entertaining.
Neither do I, but everyone's like, "Oh my God, Sam, you and Max should review whatever videos," and I'm like, "No, we've got more important shit to."
Yeah, like talk to an engineer about pussy smoke. That was way more important.
That's actually
Andrew Tate had been made a statement I saw that I had some comments on. He said that if you ever have sex in any capacity without the direct possibility or intent of having a child, that it's gay, which is a new one. And all I have to say is he focuses on what is gay a lot, and what he says is gay is usually like normal male behavior. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say Andrew Tate is a flaming homosexual.
Well, yeah,
Allegedly.
a lot of these trad life people are allegedly homosexual. I've noticed.
Look, man, because what he's saying, okay, is that after you're a certain age and you're married and all that having sex with your wife is gay, and only
Yeah.
a faggot would say that. That's my one. That's my
Yeah,
one.
no,
I get to call Andrew Tate one, right? Right. Because he is.
Well, listen, you could also take Andrew Tate on too.
That's what I'm saying. I'm up for it. Like, let's go. Let's have like an exhibition match sometime. I'll beat that faggot's ass. That's two. I'm sorry.
No, listen, that's actually my favorite.
My wife is wagging her finger at me, but it's Andrew Tate though. And he's having sex with your wife if she's gone past menopause makes you gay.
How?
He says that the only way to not be gay is to have sex with the explicit intent of procreation every single time. He said condoms are gay. Yeah. So I think I dropped my 2 F-bombs. That's like 2 the whole year though.
Listen, I say that word like multiple times in my daily life. So.
I say it all the time. I've just been trying to be good on Rum. It's been selfish.
Yeah, no, I'm
using my pass because it's Andrew Tate. And he's worse than Nick Fuentes at this point. Because he's a grown man who should know better.
The other thing too is like all these people, all these I went on a little rant about this earlier this week. All these people who are getting upset about the conservative dad trad wife beer calendar because they don't get that it's a joke. Do you know what I'm talking about, or should I?
I'm not entirely sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so in response to Bud Light going gay, there was this company that decided, hey, we'll make like a lager for conservatives and call it like ultralight conservative beer. Now that is a little cringe in of itself, granted, but they're self-aware about it, and so just like Budweiser used to do like or no, it was Miller. Just like Miller used to do like a calendar with like swimsuit models having the beer. Like this company leaned into the self-aware
Oh,
thing.
that's the conservative women thing calendar I've been seeing. Look,
yes,
man.
yes,
Look, man.
and it's
I bust on people for simping. You know, I get on you. I get on Morpheus. I get on your boys there. I get on everybody. Jimmy. Shout out to Jimmy, by the way. He's great. You should follow him on Twitter. What is it? Jimmy81, I believe.
Yeah.
Good dude. Yeah. I bust on y'all for simping, okay? But like the idea of a fucking calendar with girls in maybe not all clothed perfectly to the wearing burqas, if that bothers you're one of those things I said twice.
Well, part of though too is it's a joke too. Like they're kind of like
okay, but Alex Stein, joking about being a drag queen by actually being a drag queen in front of children is not really, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I get your point, but it's not
There comes a point where you're not joking, you're just doing the thing, and their calendar is just them doing the thing.
Fair enough.
And they should just embrace that. They shouldn't be bothered by it. They like honestly.
Yeah,
this is what I mean. Like I get the moralized side of it to some degree of conservatism, but they have to understand that moving forward, millennial and beyond, Kid Rock conservatism is a block, and it's a large voting block, and it's a voting block that it's the working and underclass, and if you win them over, you'll have them for generations to come.
Yeah.
And they like a titty calendar sometimes, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like
I'm wagging my finger at motherfuckers from a moralized, theological, philosophical point of view, right? But it absolutely shouldn't be like, oh, you can't look at a titty calendar. Like, go fuck yourself. Okay?
It's not a
decision whether you want to be moral or not.
It's not even that though. Like this, there are little
Tell how
pictures
closely I
of
follow the news.
there are actual pictures of like women baking pies in this calendar though. Like it is funny, and the fact that like the moralizing right is like upset about that, like come on. I don't know.
It's okay to have fun.
Yeah.
Moderation in all things is usually key.
Morpheus says, I'd want some sort of graphic along with the hashtag on the front. Oh, he's referring to Pussy's Smoke.
Yeah. Oh, we need a Pussy Smoke graphic, huh? Maybe a cat on fire.
Yeah, there we go. Overlord on fire from Morpheus. So
just the tail. Just the tail's on fire.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. We're just spitballing.
But
no, the cat should be calm. My wife asked if the cat is calm or freaking out. I think the cat should be calm. Pussy Smoke shouldn't scare you. Actually, it should, because it kill you. We decided that. Craig already got into that. Okay, it should terrify you. Actually, the cat's going to be absolutely freaking out. Having a goddamn panic attack because he's about to get fucked.
Yeah. But by the way, subscribe to the Fake Untitled podcast. I'm addicted to that thing.
Fucked to death. Sorry. I just had to repeat that really loudly for some reason.
That's good. That's gonna be an isolated soundbite now.
I know. I should
use saying that. So
if you're not careful, you're gonna get fucked to death. There's a clip for you. You're welcome, chat.
So
I embarrassed my wife.
One other thing is game of the year, Max. I think you already kind of revealed what yours is. Is it still Dave the Diver?
That's tough. Game of the year, World of Warcraft Classic Season of Discovery. Dave the Diver is the second place runner-up.
Okay, fair enough. I would say for mine, RoboCop.
That's a contender for sure.
RoboCop is my game of the year.
And I bet you going into this year, you thought Spider-Man 2 would tower above that. RoboCop was like a second tier thought, right?
I knew RoboCop was going to be good, but yeah, I did think that it was going to. But no, RoboCop actually
they nailed the atmosphere and aesthetic. I got to give them total credit, and it's a more budget than most AAA games.
Yeah.
And they had his real voice too.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah, the HUD, everything, the way he moves. I usually complain about slow movement in first-person shooters because that's a modern trope, but he's fucking RoboCop, so it feels right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
there's even a button to sprint, but like, who would use it? Because you're RoboCop.
Well, I mean, you use it to like dodge out of the way of grenades and whatnot.
Yeah. But it's not like you're not gonna run all the time because it's more fun to just be like, yeah, it's awesome, no doubt.
Yeah, it's awesome.
World of Warcraft Season of Discovery. The reason I give the nod to that, okay, is because it's sort of a hard reboot for Blizzard. This is the first time in a very long time they've listened to their fan base or given them anything interesting or fun or unique. Like everything they put out is by the numbers. Overwatch is just, it's there. Diablo 4, it's just there, or bad. But I don't think it's bad. I think people just played through everything there was, and it wasn't like, oh my God, this is the best game ever, like I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Season of Discovery, if you're a Warcraft guy, is that. They took the original game, for those that don't understand the premise, it's the original 2004 version of the game up to level 25. And they added in a whole bunch of new spells and abilities that you find in the world. And the problem with a lot of MMOs, okay, especially old ones like that, is we know where everything is. We know how to beat everything. We know how to do everything. And so they added in that element of finding it all again communally. There was no beta tests. They just launched it and we found shit. And yeah, some things were broken or whatever. And then at the end, at level 25, normally it goes up to level 60, but at level 25, they added a raid and a new PvP event that are just for this new version of the game. So it's a old dungeon that they've now made into a 10-player hard raid that you can do at level 25 and get new gear that wasn't in the game. And then they're going to raise the level cap to 40 and 50 and 60. And then we're not only going to get new raids with each one of those, but at the end, when all the regular raids from vanilla World of Warcraft would be, we're going to get more then too. So basically, they're taking it in a completely different direction, but using the original game mechanics that a lot of people liked. And the reason that Classic was a thing in the first place was people wanted to return to old World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And Microsoft came in and told Blizzard, stop being combative with the fans. That was one of the bullet points of the meeting. Another one was to de-emphasize their woke agenda. And another one was they separated the three. Technically now the 3 bits of Activision Blizzard King, ABK, are going to split again and all be separate subsidiaries of Microsoft. And so now Blizzard and Bobby Kotick is going to be gone at the end of the year, if you weren't aware, the CEO of Activision. Microsoft is putting it's funny because it took being bought by a bigger company to set Blizzard free again.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful for the future, but also I played the shit out of that. Granted, it came out on November 30th, but yet it still ends up my game of the year. We'll see
Well-
if it continues, because again, we only got the first part. We haven't gotten to the level 40 and beyond yet, so maybe they fucked the whole thing up. But as a project, the reason it's good is a lot of time problems with World of Warcraft for people is it takes a long time to level up. But level 25 you get to in about 8 hours.
Well, what?
Which is
Well,
like a normal action game length. You know what I mean? And then
yeah.
there's some stuff for you to do at the end game. And that's why I made a bunch of different characters and I'm leveling them. I haven't been playing for the last week because I was playing a whole bunch of indie games and stuff and doing Christmas and but yeah, that's it. Dave the Diver though, if you know, because not everybody's gonna enjoy World of Warcraft, period. So for my recommended game of the year for most people who don't like WoW, Dave the Diver. RoboCop is up there as well.
Yeah. Also in gaming news, I meant to cover this last week, but we covered so much I didn't get the chance.
Oh,
Rest in peace.
one more honorable mention. Metal Hellsinger. Okay, go on.
Very good. Rest in peace to James McCaffrey, the voice of Max Payne. Anyone who knows me knows that Max Payne is one of, if not my all-time favorite game series. And as most of you know, I'm anxiously awaiting the remake. This does beg the question, though.
Who is going to be Max Payne? Yeah. Or are they going
Well-
to use the original vocal files or?
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, and this is just speculation, I had heard that they had like started to re-record some of the dialogue like with him. Like the remake was already in production with him doing like recreating his voice lines, but now they may have to use the old files now. For some of it.
His voice is just so iconic to that game and role, and also so unique.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see the final project. You're right about that.
I mean, I don't think it would be right for them to use someone else as Max.
Yeah, that's tough shoes to fill either way. I just don't get hopeful for remakes unless it's Night Dive Studios.
I don't get hopeful for them either, but it seems like they really are like they're doing like a whole thing other than just like upscaling them. So
yeah. So we got the game, and your game of the year is RoboCop, huh? I actually didn't expect that.
Yeah, it's not gay Spider-Man. Alan Wake 2, I haven't finished it, but I do like speaking of James McCaffrey.
Yeah,
Alan Wake 2 is
that's
pretty
an
good.
Epic Game Store game, so it didn't come out this year to me.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
Epic Game Store gets exclusives on PC. I know you're a fucking console guy, so whatever. And we don't buy anything on Epic, so like if it comes out exclusively on Epic, PC gamers will be like, "That came out." I'm not kidding.
Oh, I get it.
It's not a joke either. They just don't know. No one uses the Epic Game Store, so a game can be out for like a whole year on there. And when it comes to Steam, and people will be like, "Oh yeah, that finally came out, awesome!" Like PC gamers just, unless you're a Fortnite guy. If you're a Fortnite guy, you'll use the Epic Game Store. But for anybody else, they don't. Everybody just uses Steam.
Gotcha.
I've got a bunch of indie co-op games. I'll probably shout out some of them. My wife's friend gave me a $50 Steam gift card. And so I just got all games that we could play, mostly co-op games that I could play with her on the Steam Deck and my computer.
Nice.
What?
Very nice.
Oh, she really liked the game Alt F4. It's a comedy sandbox platform game that's like made to be super duper hard and hilarious.
Yeah, I've heard that's actually a good one. So
Yeah, but
Eh.
otherwise, I had a whole bunch of them that I'm gonna try out and find some. There is one that I think is awesome, and it's on sale if anybody's interested in this kind of stupidity that I can even shout out. It's not game of the year or nothing, but it's called Infected Shelter, and what it is,
yeah,
it's a 2D beat 'em up style, like the old Ninja Turtle games or something. Zombie survival roguelite. And I know that's a mouthful, but what it has is instead of it being a 2D beat 'em up, it's a 2D over the top shoot 'em up. And there's wicked gore and executions, and you're using like rocket launchers and shotguns. And I don't mean just like in some beat 'em up games, you'll pick up a gun and you have 3 shots and then it's dead. This game, you're picking up a gun, blowing away 50 zombies with it before it fucking runs out of ammo, and then you pick up a katana blade and cut 3 of them in half. It's a blast.
sounds fun.
Ultra violent. It's got like a cartoony art style though, so if you're not into ultra violence, it's still not that bad. I like me some ultra violence in video games though.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Sam, but if I get a
Alrighty,
shotgun that doesn't really jib somebody, I feel ripped off.
I love ultra violence in games. That's why I love RoboCop. Is
Mhm.
it's
That's the best ultra violence in a game of the year, I would say. If I could pick a subcategory of like the game with the most satisfying violence, that's RoboCop. There's not even anything close.
I love that. I love that you can like see I even gave a thumbs up.
Oh man, if you
you can like
kneecap a guy, that animation's crazy. You shoot a guy in the dick. Don't shoot guys in the dick, but if you shoot a guy in the dick in RoboCop, I'm not even gonna spoil it, but you should do that and laugh.
It's hilarious. It's even more hilarious when you don't try to do it either. So
The best is when you shoot him in the dick and then immediately shoot him in the head. So they go and they grab their dick and you just blow their fucking head clean off with that fucking the pistol there.
Yeah. You really don't need any other gun in the game, although it does help to have.
Once you start upgrading that pistol, it is by far nothing else is even close.
Yeah. Once you figure out how to use the little circuit board thing. So
yep.
But
what else? We got anything else? We've been at this for a while. It was a good show. I like you should come back sometime.
Luke should come back. So and I mean I've known him for close to 25 years at this point, so glad to know you approve of him. So shout out to him. Thanks, Luke, for coming on. Max, any final thoughts for the year? Speaking of thanks for filling the Apex void.
We gotta have him come back on sooner or later. I like to have him come catch up every couple months,
Yeah. Well, people miss him too. So
real. Well, he's as much a part of the show as I am, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's been a good year. We've had a lot of fun. Final thoughts for the year. # Pussy Smoke t-shirts coming soon.
My final thoughts for the year is I think 2024 is actually going to be a great year.
And we're going to take America. It says it on the sign, right? We're taking America back. Get in.
Take America back. Everyone is getting all black pill talking. Oh, there's going to be a Black Swan event in 2024. No, we're gonna take America back. There's gonna be a White Swan event, if anything. So don't be black pilled. Be optimism pilled. That's what I am. I'm optimism pilled.
Those same people,
And
if Trump wins, those same people are gonna be like, "Fuck Trump." So it's what the contrarian's gonna contrary, and we just need to like ignore it and treat them like what they are, cringe.
Yep.
Get back on Reddit with that gay black pill shit.
Yep, that's where it belongs.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, folks, thank you for making
Being black
2020.
pilled is feminine. You're a woman if you do that.
Very true. And finally, folks, I want to thank you, the audience, for tuning into the show. As I posted yesterday, the most important thing I learned from Rush Limbaugh is audience appreciation. And we really do love the audience here, folks. That's why we read every chat mostly. Even the ones
close.
that
not even close tonight. We read some periodically.
But to be fair, we also
lied. We read every chat.
Well, we at least intend to mostly.
That's true.
Sometimes
I remember and I make a big deal about it, like I did tonight, and then only read like 3.
Yeah.
It's great.
So, but point is like we actually do
appreciate it. It's just we're not as on point as you wanted to fucking exclaim. Is all. Go ahead. I just had to make that one correction for the record.
That is fair. But one thing we can say is that when we say thank you for listening to the show or watching or tuning in, we really do genuinely mean that. There are a lot of shows that just want your PayPal bucks and your donos, and we just want your likes. And
I'm still tripped out. Y'all are here listening to us at all, man.
Yeah.
So I hope get something valuable out of it. If it's only entertainment, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, same here. I mean, the amount of people who have said that this show actually like helps them get through the day, that's like flattering as hell to me. So,
it helps me get through the day sometimes because I'm like, oh yeah, I got a whole bunch of jokes.
I
was sitting there just before I went in the call. Here's a little inside baseball for you. And I turned to my wife and I say, oh shit, I had a bunch of stuff I wanted to talk about. And I was like, I even told you I want to talk about that on the show. Do you remember what I said? And she's like, nope. And I was like, me either. I should have wrote that shit down.
Well, that is one other thing too, is I
did want to talk about the merch sale stuff though, because I wanted to kind of point out that like the merch sale sounds great on the surface, but there's a whole bunch of like underlying complications. I want that to be the best way to support the show, but oftentimes because of those complications, even though it's the best way to support a creator directly, it still sucks. It's a shitty all around, and that's one of the things I've been working on is like I've looked at like 5 or 6 different distributors and looking at the prices, and I'm just like, I don't know if I want to put that on our audience,
Yeah.
We'll see.
Totally.
We'll see. Maybe we'll do both. Maybe we'll do a design on a cheap one and a design on an expensive one, and then have 2 distributors and just race.
Well, that's what Mr. Mediker did, I think. So,
and also it's tough to have a distributor that gives you like a level of creative freedom too.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like Teespring like said my logo was copyrighted even though it was like original. So
Yeah. Or like they'll decide your political slogan isn't okay, and that's something we might or might not run up against. And that's true of a lot of distributors. It's just, man, it's been a nightmare, and that's why I do have to apologize. There should have been merch this year. There will be Q1. I can't promise before winter is out, but I can guarantee Q1. And maybe, the Pussy Smoke t-shirt will have to be the first one, won't it? And then we'll do a non-offensive one next to it, or at least not.
There's one thing I can guarantee, which is that in Q1 there will be the sequel to Shadows of Deception. So
that's why we need the t-shirts by Q1, right? Maybe we can put a Shadows of Deception t-shirt in there.
Another guarantee that I can at least try and make is I will actually be writing out show notes beforehand so that we can prep. I'll try and do better about show prep. Whether or not we actually do better at show prep, that's another
I
thing.
vow to do worse at it, because it seems like the less prep I do, the better the episode ends up.
That's actually unironically true sometimes. Yeah. So
I vow, audience, to prep as little as possible in terms of looking into political events or news. I'm only going to vaguely browse Twitter.
That's, you know what? That's pretty much what I do now, actually.
Yeah,
for
that's
show
what I
prep. So you know what? Scratch that. We'll just keep on doing what we're doing, and we'll try not.
Maybe we just need to learn to take more notes, or use the bookmarks. You know, the bookmarks kind of work good on Twitter.
Yeah, or audience, use the timestamps that I do on each episode if you're listening on Spotify. If you want to jump to a certain section.
And anything you want Sam to talk about, particularly anything that makes him uncomfortable, make sure you @ me on Twitter. And especially if you know it's going to make Sam have like the face he kind of has now there. You know what I mean?
Oh, geez.
He's like, oh no. If you like that kind of stuff, you got to, anything like that, you got to tweet @ me. I'll bring it to the show myself. You know, cut out the middleman.
Morpheus is scheming already.
He's like, I got him in now.
I can see Morpheus and Jimmy, who's like, I'm only into New Jersey politics, but really, I just like to troll everybody.
Yeah,
So.
New Jersey politics is a fucking headache and a half in and of itself. I think if you had to deal with New Jersey politics, it would be hard to deal with anything else, because you're just pulling your hair out because of all the corruption.
That's true. So anyway, folks, we thank you for tuning into the show. We hope you have a good New Year's Eve, New Year, and let me actually see. Will the next show be on the 1st?
Nah, the 1st is Friday.
Oh, it actually will be.
Or Sunday, right? No.
No, the 1st of the year is on Monday, I think.
Oh, so yeah, we will see you next year, ladies and gentlemen. The year that we take
I guess
America back.
Boom. All right, folks, have a good night, and we'll see you on January 1st, I guess.
Morpheus said Sam likes the strange. I want to end with that note. Go ahead, Sam.
All right, see you January 1st, folks, for Whitfield Report Monday. More is partially right, and I'll leave it at that. Happy New Year, folks. We'll see you next year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for listening to The Whitfield Report on the NGC Network. Please visit Sam's website at www.thesamwhitfield.com. and support Sam on Patreon at patreon.com/Whitfield Report. Until next time, God bless, God save this great nation, and God, freedom, legacy, in that order.